Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me News Nerds Need on Twitter, and you can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects that you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn. We still can confirm he's not a cat, so we don't have to say any more about that after this week. It has been confirmed. We are good. One agent underscore 70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Where you from? Brooklyn going out to all.
See? And that's the thing you don't get when you're not from Brooklyn. Just scores and scores of musical ditties that rep your place, and I hate it. But
It's fun for me to kind of like pass my mouse over them. Like, which one do I do this week? Which one
Right.
haven't I done for a while?
It's like, Like, too bad you don't have like a random button for that section.
Yes, that would be nice.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know what I feel like. Bloop, bloop. So, but yes, we are here with another Comic Book Chronicles, and you can find the Comic Book Chronicles on the Coast of the Podcast Network, that's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this program on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like and subscribe.
And while you're at it, hey, if you want to see us recording live, go to either youtube.com/theclicknation, that's TheKliqNation, or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, all one word, on Thursday nights when we record at 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern.
And click like and subscribe. Leave us the great reviews.
Indeed. Yeah, well, I don't think they have reviews on Twitch or YouTube, but yeah, do that. Well, yes, they do on YouTube, so, because I know they're starting to do some weird stuff. Anyway, and appreciate for folks that actually have been following the Twitch, because, like I said, we're trying to get to 50, so we can kind of upload some stuff for folks. Some special ditties we got in their pocket from way back when. But and even one that I totally forgot to put together. Jeez. But that's neither here nor there. Tonight, though, we are going to do what we normally do and get in some comic books, folks. And we are going to start off with Black Widow number 5.
Yes, the creative team on this. The book is written by Kelly Thompson. The art is by Elena Casagrande and Rafael De La Torre. The colors are by Jordi Belair. Letters by VC's Corey Pettit. Believe it or not, folks, this is a potential click of the week for me. I believe this is a really powerful and well done issue. And I don't mean to be hyperbolic when I say that. It's very well crafted and carries an emotional punch.
No,
because
it's
not
legit.
everything is as we thought we saw it in the last issue, in the previous issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not everything is what it seemed to be, for better and for worse, when it comes to how it will affect the future of one Natalia Alianova Romanov, the Black Widow.
That's why I said you're just going to spite up the whole government, huh? All right, bet. But yeah, I would go so far as to say that I think we have both been enjoying this book pretty much the whole time. I feel like it's
right. It definitely, yeah. What I would say is it definitely drew me in.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little cautious coming in because I wasn't sure about it. It's obviously was initially timed to come out when the movie was supposed to come out,
Mm-hmm.
and with the delays being delays, obviously COVID-19 related. But that being said, I don't believe. Actually, you know what? I think I did pull the first issue.
Mhm.
And I think my hesitation came around issue 2 and 3, but I definitely fell into line and really appreciated this book from that point on. And I'm glad that we're getting more going forward.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah, because at the end of this book, without spoiling too much of the insides of it, we are definitely, as we've been talking earlier, the limited series headdress that we thought was the case had been lifted, as Agent 70 said before the show. You know, so we were still but we were still kind of under the impression that it was still a limited series, but we didn't really, because sometimes they do that. The books, like, yeah, it might be a limited series, or it might be a limited series when they decide to cancel the book. Or
Right.
it might have started out a limited series and then make it an ongoing, which looks like that might be the case here. Or it's a limited series that, they might actually give it another arc, but still plan on canceling it for some other reason.
Right, only giving it a short extension just to make it, just to allow the creative team a little bit more time to finish telling, a single or at least maybe a broader story.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, I wanted to mention a few things, and there's a reason why I described it as broadly and as generally as I did, because there is a twist that involves last issue and this issue, and I do not want to spoil it. But I can tell you that Black Widow and her compatriots and colleagues and sometimes enemies come together and strike back at the group that had put Natasha into this uh, alternate reality situation, as it were. And there's one particular, I don't want to say exchange, there's one particular piece of dialogue where it reminded me a little bit of Taskmaster last week in Taskmaster number, was it 4?
I believe so.
Right, when he when the Taskmaster in last week's issue of Taskmaster is basically peeing in his pants when the Black Widow confronts him as he's fighting the White Fox. And in this issue, there is a little bit of dialogue from someone who I'm not all that familiar with, but it's the Weeping Lion, I think he is.
Oh yeah, so Weeping Lion. At least the last time I saw him, I'm not sure how new or old in that what comes from, or the last time I saw him, because yeah, they reference what happened to him from the last miniseries before, or was it 2 miniseries? Might have been 2 miniseries before this particular one from
Right.
Black Widow, where she went up against them.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's between Weeping Lion. I guess the Weeping Lion's on the radio. He's got Overwatch, and he's trying to get a handle on the situation with the heroes. And he's looking through a sniper scope, trying to get a handle on where everyone is. And the Viper's asking him, "Who's missing?" And he says,
Oh,
"Winter Soldier."
mm-hmm.
And the Viper says, "We're all going to die."
Yeah, she was straight up shook. I legit laughed at that when she said that.
Now it doesn't play. It doesn't actually play out the way we think it will with that particular little piece of dialogue between those two characters. But I laughed when I read that too. I was like, "Oh, we're all going to die. The Winter
Mhm.
Soldier is not accounted for."
Yeah, she was like, okay, I am shooketh.
Like, we're just screwed.
Yeah, but so that was kind of just one of the little things that kind of made this issue in particular just great. But also, like Agent 70 said, the emotional resonance that kind of happens after that. I actually would not mind. I was thinking to myself when I was reading this that I would not mind having a book with these 4, like as a team, just going around like doing well, not doing the dirty work, of the Marvel U or whatever the case may be, or maybe not even dirty work, but just
well,
them. Yeah,
Oh,
just
go
them
ahead,
together.
finish up.
Yeah. No, I was about just them, just them doing their thing.
What I was going to say is that they seem to definitely be the primary supporting cast that will probably rotate in and out of this book
Mm-hmm.
moving forward, and I think that's a good role for them because any sort of organized team will run afoul of, you know, there is such a thing obviously as Secret Avengers. We haven't seen that particular iteration of the Avengers in a while,
Right.
but that seems like right up this particular group's alley.
Right. True. True. Yeah, they're well, I guess I was gonna say not well. See, sometimes, no pun intended, Hawkeye's kind of hit or miss.
Oh
Depending
no!
on, depending on,
Oh no!
depending on how they depending on how he's written, because sometimes like, yeah, we don't kill, or sometimes we'll shoot an eye out, or sometimes he's probably still on that, we do not kill. But there's been a couple times where he actually recently killed, so.
Right, because the character has gone through a lot in terms of influence from the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's definitely proven to be a line that Hawkeye has crossed more rarely than maybe even in the past.
Mm-hmm.
When he was running around in purple, in a purple mask and tights. So
yeah, it's slightly annoying at that too, because I was like, all right, just stay in one place. Like, are you going to be the schlub, or are you going, the schlub that don't want to kill, or are you just going to be like a mix of old brash Clint, which I think they've gone well away from,
right.
of his youth. So, which I sadly kind of miss. Because young brash Clint was just a terror and always fucking shit up. But then again, you can say he does that unintentionally now. So.
Right, he's a little bit more bumbling now, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's kind of what because Hawkeye's actually one of my favorite characters. From back then.
I was about to say he's always been a great source of comic relief and dramatic tension. Obviously we came of age when he was gunning to gain more respect for himself and looking to lead, and thus became the chair of let's go Rangers. Became the chair of the West Coast Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
So, seeing the character, mature in front of our eyes to that point, and then once the wackos, went away, the character's kind of gone into, I don't want to say it's gone down a meandering route, because he has had some character development, but maybe to an extent for the negative. So
yeah, and I guess the plus or minus from that comes from Fractions run, because that's where kind of a lot of that got cemented.
Right.
But nevertheless, this is actually not about Hawkeye. This is more about Black Widow, but just so happens to be that he's in this book and probably will, as I just haven't said, will be coming back through here, which I also kind of funny. So I will say, because of a moment that we find near the end of the book with her and the Winter Soldier, which, no surprise, they have, everyone who's been in this book has had a history with her, including one Red Guardian, which, got a reprieve in this issue. But everyone that's been pretty much for better or worse, for everybody that is that was with her, rolling with her in this issue, has had some. Well, most of them had intimate connections. We can't say say whatever it is about Yelena, but still, they're kind of, regardless of their past and what they still sometimes get into, they still almost like sisters. So they're still kind of, in that respect, kind of close. But you pretty much get to see like who's, or at least you can kind of take away from who definitely Kelly Thompson and crew, even if it's not the case, who she is probably the closest to out of this group by what happens near the end of it.
Right.
And actually, which brings to something else. I'm slightly kind of surprised, but not surprised because he wouldn't be anywhere in the area. I'm surprised Daredevil didn't show up some kind of way.
Yeah, he's sort of the one that's gotten left behind.
Mm-hmm. because they're in the whole, they're basically on the other side of the country. So, and I mean, granted, that's not saying that they couldn't have ginned up a way for him to be there, but you know,
Right, but that's part of her relationship history that has been, as I said, really left behind.
mm-hmm.
Whereas they've really sought to develop, one retcon relationship, with the Winter Soldier. Like
Right.
once he resurfaced in the Brubaker Cap run, they kind of retconned that particular relationship into existence. So,
Mm-hmm. Which weirdly made me rethink about the fact that, boy, I kind of wish they had did the legwork in the MCU to put that in there, as opposed to the whole Banner Widow thing. Because
yeah, I thought there was a hint of it, but then they went in a totally different direction.
right, but if they had, it'd been like, I know I would have been like, where the hell does this come from? There is nothing that would have suggested that any of that would have been the case.
There was a few. There was a few hints. I thought. I'll give you one example before we move on. Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
When Bucky is put under the hypnosis, given the hypnotic suggestion by Zemo, and he breaks out of the containment, and Winter Soldier takes out Sharon Carter, Agent 13, and then Widow puts him into, like the head scissors, and she, just before she starts to get beat up a little bit, she says something along the lines of, "You could act like you know me," or something like that, or that you've met me before.
Okay.
Something.
I remember that
along
part.
those lines.
Right, I remember that part, but I don't remember that line.
And I thought that was a hint towards their shared possible history, because they don't really interact too much
exactly
during Winter Soldier the movie, other than him pursuing her.
Right.
They only fight each other once. So while she might be referring to that, that's not how I read it. But maybe it's because I wanted to see the comic book relationship be portrayed more, or at least hinted at more in the comic book, in the movie, that is. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Around that time, I would have loved to have seen it. It was like, all right, we know this is a thing, so they didn't really do any legwork to do that, so we would probably never get it. But they gave us what they gave us for whatever reason. But regardless, this we still got the comics, and we still the moment they have in this book just kind of cements like, yeah, this is this, despite how bittersweet it is, it's you still see there's something still there.
Right. So this is definitely, I would recommend folks pick up these issues. We are 5 issues in. This is more likely than not the last issue that would be included in a 5-issue trade paperback.
Yeah.
For the first arc of this book. So, because they are going into a different direction, so I don't think they would make this a 6-issue arc, a 6-issue trade paperback. I think this would be one of the 5-issue trade paperbacks. So, for anyone who's looking to read this, obviously Marvel Unlimited will catch up sooner rather than later.
Yep.
But at the same time, you can pick this up in trade paperback, because I highly recommend this particular story arc. It's really entertaining, and as I said, this issue was really well done. There are some powerful moments in this that are very well done. So,
and I want to say, because I remember last week we were talking about where the hell was this book, and it just so happened to come out this week, and I want to say it might have taken a month off.
I was about to say it definitely took a month or 2 off. I would add that I think when you asked, where a couple of books were, we started looking, forward into the books that were coming out, and then we started to see things like this week was Black Widow, next week is Black Panther.
Right.
So we started to see them pop up, as we start to ask, like, we haven't seen, X and Y books. So.
Right, and we know in certain cases that there's been some books that skip, and in fact, in the news we there's news about some more books that's going to skip a month. So, but that being the case, we can move on to
what's next?
Hmm.
Talk about.
Guardians?
Sure.
Guardians of the Galaxy, number 11.
All right. I will give the creative team. This book is written by Al Ewing. The art is by Juan Cabal. Colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. Take it away.
So after the events of last issue, Peter Quill is back. Spoiler alerts: Peter Quill is back amongst the quote unquote living, even though he wasn't dead in the first place. He was just misplaced, for lack of a better word. He's back with Nova and the rest of the Garden Sans, Gamora and folks who show up in this issue, but Pete has brought some antagonists with him in the form of the Olympian gods who we thought dead, but ended up also coming back alive, and newly powered or newly and differently powered, but they're also on a rampage. And they had apparently share a link with one Peter Quill. But this particular issue, the crux of this issue is pretty much them meeting, them being the Guardians still on this dead planet that has some significance to, at the very least, Quill and Nova and Gamora, because of Annihilation. Because this was the planet where they pretty much took their first big L. Or, yeah, I guess you could safe to say that, because, they were kind of on the ropes, and but they had a plan, and the plan didn't necessarily go through, and, the enemies brought out a big gun, so they had to kind of leave out. So they took some licks, but they got up out of there. So Nova's like, well, we go, and here's where we left we make our stand with the Olympic gods, because there's no one here. So the crux of the book is pretty much Quill and Nova kind of hashing out, things between themselves, I guess, for, not necessarily hashing out, because, it was more like, hey, they're...
What I would add, though, and hold that thought, hold that thought where you were. I would add that there's more than just the two of them hashing out their feelings and, kind of catching up on, obviously there's still a lot to catch up on between the two of them.
Right.
Because they've each literally come back from the dead in the recently, in the relatively recent past, that is.
Well, right. There's the whole thing with Moondragon and Phyla. You talking about?
What's that?
There's the whole thing with Moondragon and Phyla. Yeah.
Gamora as well.
Yeah.
Gamora jumps in as well, and there are two groups of Guardians essentially, and there's another group that's incoming, but they kind of get intercepted, but I'm pretty sure they're going to come back in the next issue.
Yeah.
My only notes on this is that this issue is the issue in which the Guardians assemble
basically
on this dead planet from the Annihilation War. That's kind of what they're doing. They're literally massing their forces as the Olympian gods are coming through. And they're trying to get their respective acts together before they arrive. And so we are one issue away from the end of this liftoff arc, I guess.
Yep.
Whatever this arc is actually called.
That sounds right. Liftoff, I guess.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm looking at the notes on the cover. Like it says liftoff in 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, and the next issue is 1. So, and we know that from solicitations that Guardians is going to reform in a different direction with the new artist but same writer.
Right.
So so this will be leading into that. So it should, it'll prove to be interesting. And what Roddykat is happy to note is that he's very happy that he read Annihilation, and it's pretty much because because of COVID, we had that opportunity to do the evergreen episodes. So we were covering events and storylines of years past, but Annihilation has proved to be one of the foundations of the current Marvel Space books. Anything that comes out Marvel Space has some sort of tie to the Annihilation event. So I thought it was pretty important for him to read, and I'm glad that we had a chance to go over and talk about it.
Indeed, yeah, because like we were talking before the show, that they were when we were picking out stuff. And by the way, you can go back into the archives, which is only like almost a year, actually, since we did that. Because I can't remember when we actually did that, so it might have been like March or April, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But you can definitely go check out that episode in the archives on on your places of choice. The video's still out there and all that kind of. Well, yeah, that was not the one that got messed up, but regardless, it's out there. So yeah, it definitely ended up being a big touchstone for the Marvel space stuff, and the Guardians are basically, and I believe this has actually been said, that the Guardians are on their way to becoming basically the Avengers of space.
Right.
And that's where we're leading to with this arc right at this moment. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. Like we're fans of Al Ewing. 1, 2. I've always been a fan of the Guardians, but the OG Guardians. I do love this whatever current iteration this has been. And as far as Annihilation in itself was concerned, like, yeah, I definitely, this is the group that pretty much most people in the MCU that watch the MCU knows, because after that is the group that came out of Annihilation, and I'm, versed in it. Just, I still miss the OG Guardians, but.
They're called Ravagers in the MCU, right?
Yeah, I hated that part actually, but I'm glad. But some of the people, that were represented in that was like, all right, cool. They still didn't do Nikki, I don't think, but Nikki gets short snippets. So. Yeah,
I don't think.
But regardless, it was like, really, you're gonna do that to them? But nevertheless, like in the comic books, in the books now, being that the Guardians are becoming like the Avengers of space, and they're still pretty much like, okay, they're pretty much getting back to what or it's kind of soon to say, but they're pretty much getting back to, hey, space is big, we need heroes, and we've talked about this in the past couple of episodes, and that pretty much kind of sort of getting back to what Annihilation was had put out there, where hey, look, space has got things out there that need to be dealt with,
right?
Despite the fact that we've seen a lot of stuff from space coming from coming to Earth in the last few years also. So
right, which kind of touches on a little bit of our pre-show chit chat about relationships that have come and gone, have become frayed and disintegrated since Annihilation and events thereafter.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that whole thing was kind of funny. But yeah, regardless though, Guardians of the Galaxy 11 was actually pretty good, and like I said, we're going to get into what seemed like it's going to be a big battle next issue, and we'll see whatever happens to those the other part of the group. And that, I don't know, you saw that last image page, last page preview of the next episode, next issue, right?
Hold on, I'll pull it up. Give me 1 second.
Because I was wondering if you had any thoughts about what that was suggesting.
Guardians. Scrolling. All right. Preview. That's a good question. I am not sure what any of that means.
Yeah. Like, part of it is like, okay, yeah, we see well, not to give away the image, but we basically see something on the ground that would suggest something, but also them kind of walking away into the sunset kind of deal. But you get a sense of who some of them might be, but not all of them.
Right.
So I'm sitting here, but the thing that I was kind of talking about in this case was the thing that is on the ground that I know you would probably be.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But we also unfortunately know what's in solicitations.
Yes.
So that's why I'm not necessarily concerned about that.
Yeah. But still, like I said, but yeah, but it still is like, okay, well, what's what is, even despite knowing solicitations, like, okay, how are they going to get from here to there type of situation kind of comes up. Nevertheless, we can go on to another book. You got one?
What's next?
Let's see. You read. Let's see if you've read anything else in common. Okay. How about?
Oh yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, there's a couple. How about? Something I had a little bit of trouble with.
Wait, let me guess.
Champions.
Oh, never mind. Okay,
Huh?
never mind. I was gonna try to guess it. Never mind.
No, I was gonna say Champions number 4.
Mhm.
I also had trouble with Iron Man number 6. Also,
That was what I thought you were gonna go to.
I was gonna say if you want to talk about Iron Man number 6, we can do that too.
No, we'll go to Champions. Oh, Champions number 4.
So we can cover both of them because
Mhm.
everything else, I don't think we have too much left in common after that. So,
Right.
all right. So Champions, Champions number 4 is written by E. Viewing, art by Bob Quinn, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So in this issue, the Champions escape Cradle capture. With the help of a former champion, one Scott Summers, now all grown up again,
Mhm.
or at least not time displaced. Let's put it that way. And they end up recuperating from being on the run while being under the protection of not necessarily Krakoa, but at least of the X folks, because they find themselves on the Marauder
Mhm.
with the Marauders and Captain Kate, and they go on a little mini adventure, but they end up figuring out that they are done trying to run from the situation that has come up as a result of Kamala's law. So they make that decision that turns their direction around literally, while Viv continues to work through her issues with some outside help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually, and there was parts of this issue I kind of enjoyed. You know, the fact that, well, one, they were all pissed. I was like, yeah, we thought we were going to be in, we thought we were going to go to Krakoa, and Scott's like, nah, you can't do that. So, but
Right.
the fact that, so when they got to that point, I was like, well, wait, so then what? I totally didn't even think about Marauders at that point, which tends to be a place where stuff like that would happen. You know, it's like the folks that can't get to Krakoa that they need to shuttle off, or or other things that they need. They're basically the pirates of the of the Krakoa of the X-Men, I guess, in a way.
Right.
So it was kind of fun to see that interaction between them. It was also fun to see, and I didn't even notice this. I didn't even pick this up at the time, but Iceman had asked Scott, like, hey, what's with that get up? And it had me thinking, I was like, wait, is this the time displaced Iceman? Or, because I think everybody had gone back. I can't see, that's another thing. I can't even remember what the hell happened with the whole time displaced stuff. So it was like, wait.
Right.
And I know Scott.
Just blame the beast and be done with it. You know?
Yeah.
And Bendis.
Right.
Ugh.
Like we know Scott kept his memories, but did everybody else did and something like that? So but Scott's like, yo, yeah, this is my old Champions gear, when I was with them, which is still kind of weird. Like,
Yeah.
But I enjoy seeing it. It's still kind of pretty cool though, because obviously, when he was with them, he was definitely a different age, and now that he's aged back up, like he still feels himself a part of the group, which he apparently is, but still, So that part I loved about it. He's still looking out for his old teammates. But again, like it's that whole thing with that is still kind of weird.
I mean, just kind of like the way this issue. I mean, obviously, this is one of those. It's very similar to Guardians 11, in that this is the precursor to a big change in direction for the book,
And hopefully leaving out of outlawed.
I'm sorry.
I was
Right.
about to,
Well, I think Outlawed is still going to be going on for the foreseeable future. We're still dealing with Kamala's law, at least into the May solicitations, which I was reading today.
right.
There's a solicitations, and obviously this will come up when we talk about clickbait and talk about what's in the news. But the May solicitations for Marvel were released earlier today, and I had a chance to skim through them, and I noticed that the Champions solicitation mentioned something about Kamala's law still being in effect. So
Gotcha.
while outlawed itself may not be going on all the way till then, I suspect it is.
Yeah, and I guess to be fair, like I don't know, so it's all weird because we know we're in the midst of well, I guess one Wildline event definitely, but
Right.
there's a
Being
few
black,
different right, but there's a few different things going on in different corners, and Outlawed who kind of got messed over because of COVID, had to redo its scheduling of the books. So we're getting books that should have been out by now, and some stuff is still kind of, I guess, it's still kind of out of place in the ordering that's coming in because I'm not sure what the ordering of Outlawed even was at this point.
Right, and at the same time, we're also, I believe, experiencing some editorial changes
Yes.
in the books just to make sure that things are not as disjointed as they could be.
Yes.
So we are getting a little bit of that, and so some books are being delayed as a result.
Mm-hmm. So while that is all still the case, it's still kind of weird to see like this still going on when we know what's going on behind the scenes with that, but it's still kind of weird to see these books kind of just plopping out every now and then like that.
Right. All right. Do you have anything else on this, or before we move on to Iron Man number 6?
I think that was pretty much it. I did notice that they doom scrolling has made itself. I don't know if that is something that has shown up in comics of recently, but this is the first time I think I've seen it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, which sure, this would be a book that they would do something like that in.
Oh, absolutely. It's the right demographic.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, while I held back a kind of audible groan about that, I was like, you know what? No, it totally makes sense in this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And you already said that, Viv pretty much kind of gets a lesson. I say it was a civil rights lesson, but it's something that's analogous to what she's going through or what she's kind of made happen with the other group.
Right. I wasn't so keen on the snitching part, but I understood.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's not really snitching, but okay,
Yeah. I mean, it kind of was, but her intentions were not necessarily for the reasons that snitching would be the case for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it. Like,
right.
Not really, but I understand.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about that too. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a slight stretch, but sure, we get it. But yeah, from that though, we can go on to, I guess, Iron Man number 6, since we brought it up.
Sure. So Iron Man number 6 is written by Christopher Cantwell, with art by Cafu, colors by Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Believe it or not, the gargoyle proves to be supremely useful at the beginning of this issue. Iron Man needs a mechanic to adjust his armor to keep his body alive, which is another kind of retro touch to this run so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Korvac is making his move against Galactus's world ship.
So it's the part about the armor keeping him alive where I do get, and as you say, classically, that is a thing that has been a thing. So bravo to that. It's what? Because so he suffered a pretty, one would say, major injury at the end of last issue. And yes, he was armored up when it happened, so that was like doubly major. So I'm just going to skip ahead and say that, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I was about to bring up the fact that Rhodey died for less, but at the same time, he was going up against Thanos, so that's kind of not fair to equate the two.
I was about to say that's a tough.
I know, like I thought about it even when I was saying, I was like, yeah, I can't even justify that one, because he literally got his back blown out. So
I'm like, it's Thanos.
Yeah. So, but nevertheless, it was like, wait, so, and it was also kind of funny that within 2 issues, like something happened Korvac related, and one, Tony had to help Hellcat out, and now the reverse had to happen where Hellcat had to help him out in not necessarily the same way, but kind of in a similar manner because it was like, well, they're near death or dying or whatever the case may be. Obviously, armored up Tony was in a little bit better shape than what happened to Patsy, but it still ends up turning back around in a way. So, but yeah. That being said, though, I don't know the part that kind of, well, the couple of parts that kind of got me. Like, one, I'm glad. So we got a change in Rhodey because Rhodey was being held, which I get you have to wait for the right time for this. Like, wait, if you could have done that already, why couldn't you have done that before now? But I get it. But at the same time, Tony's increasingly assholish demeanor, even with the help, even with people that are helping him out, was getting a little on my nerves in this issue. It's like, well, you ain't no good to us, so I'm like, this person saved all these people's lives, and all you can say is like, well, they ain't no good to me, and you can, we're just leaving them. I'm like, really, Tony?
Seriously, I was like, man, Isaac Christian's getting screwed.
Right. So I'm like, if it wasn't for this person, all these people would probably be dead or something. Like, what is wrong with you? Which I'm hoping that comes back up, but it probably won't. And then, of course, that whole one punch is, which I actually, so there was a thing that happened near the end of the book, which I feel like almost equates to that what I just mentioned, involving another person dressed in green from another universe entirely. Which, I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. I don't think that was what they were going for, but it was still cool. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I kind of did. I mean, I definitely got the one punch reference that you gave. I was like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I also wanted to note something before we moved on.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that Cafu's art on War Machine evokes the movie armor.
Yes, I did notice that as well.
Evokes the movie armor more so than any of the comic book armor that we've seen recently for Rhodey. So I thought that was interesting. But at the same time, he was obviously coming off of being captured by Korvac and friends. So. Mm-hmm. It stands to reason that he may have another set of armor,
and still not surprising in that anyway. You know what I mean?
What's that?
Not that is taken after the movie armor,
right?
At this point,
right. The only reason why I guess it stuck out to me is that the Iron Man armor went so retro comic wise
mm-hmm.
that it's weird that they kind of pushed Rhodey into the movie direction.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to say that might be just an artistic decision, or who knows, maybe Cantwell made it on purpose.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there's probably some logic that could get thrown to it, but at this point, it kind of doesn't matter. I guess we'll see. This is something that I just thought about that I want to say going into the next issue whenever that happens. And I know they said it in the back of the book, but still. I swear to God, if y'all make Rhodey burn up in orbit again, I swear to God, I'm coming up there.
No, they didn't say exactly when the next issue's coming out.
Oh, did they? I thought they had an April date. Maybe that was a different book I'm thinking about.
It doesn't have a date on it.
Mm.
I know more and more books are having dates on them.
Right.
Notice that. Not this one though.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, because I know definitely have seen him in a couple of books this week, so I would might have been conflating a different one than that one, but nevertheless,
I absolutely noticed the same thing. So you're not wrong on that. I had to actually make sure and check. So this particular issue doesn't have it.
Gotcha.
Does not have it.
Gotcha. But that's being said, I don't know if you have anything else on Iron Man 6. That was pretty much the crux of it. Like they're going into the space. Obviously, they're going after Korvac next issue. So we'll see how that plays out.
Right. I guess the most frustrating part of this is that why are we continuing to have to muster this? I guess Cantwell just wants to write these characters. Why are we dealing with these kind of, with all due respect to some of these characters like C and D and E and F list characters?
Right.
So, why are we dealing with this? That this is Korvac. This is literally Avengers level event.
Right.
Of
Which they even
literal,
bring that up, right? They even bring
right?
that up in the course of this issue. It was like, well, can't we bring up some? Is there some other Avengers we can bring up? And I think Roddy said he called for some backup, but you know, we don't know who that
Right. And
is.
obviously, comics has a long history of saying, we can't call so and so because they're off planet or they're in the middle of such and such story.
Hmm.
So, that's nothing new. But at the same time, it's like, well, this is kind of one of those times you need them.
You would think, right? Exactly. Now, obviously, well, not obviously, but Korvac from his beginnings is still mega powerful, but kind of had fallen from grace in the last 20, 30 years since his big, which happens to characters at times. Like I said, we said last week about Taskmaster or and other folks that was like, yeah, when they come across, they were like big threats or a big enough threats to carry a whole issue, as opposed to just being like, hey, the first 2 or 3 pages of the issue,
Right.
fair. Which Korvac's doing a whole arc, but not necessarily for you know reasons, for similar reasons to what I just said. Um, I can't remember. I was gonna say something about it, but it probably doesn't even matter at this point. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the next issue. Um, when that drops.
All right. So let's spin up rapid fire. We got quite a few books for each of us to go through. So
Mm-hmm.
I will spin it up. Rapid fire.
All right,
All right. Do you mind if I lead this week?
go for it.
All right. First up for me is Captain America number 27. It's written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, art by Leonard Kirk, colors by Matt Miller, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Cap is exonerated of the murder of Thunderbolt Ross because they found him alive in the last couple of issues. But the Red Skull slash Alexander Lucan's plans are continuing to develop. So this story arc continues.
Did I see
Uh,
did I see on the cover or some? I could have sworn I saw either on the cover or something where that said this is how Cap got his groove back.
it's not this issue.
Okay. Okay.
I think that is an upcoming issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think that's an upcoming issue. I
All right.
don't think we've passed that particular issue yet, which I know what you're talking about.
Gotcha. Okay.
Where like Captain America's kind of wading through the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not this issue.
Oh, okay.
Next up, so we did Champions, Guardians, Iron Man, King in Black, number 4 of 5. So we're almost done, folks, with the King in Black line-wide event. This issue number 4 is written by Donny Cates with pencils by Ryan Stegman, inks by J.P. Mayer, colors by Frank Martin, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So Donny Cates has definitely made me chuckle when he revealed who the opposite of Null really is. The tide may finally be turning in this issue with one more left in the miniseries. This is something I told Roddykat, and I think it's probably safe to say that if you have not been reading King in Black up until now, it's probably okay for you to jump into this issue. You'll pick up right on where we are. You'll pick up on the story and follow it to its end in the next issue. So, um, we're almost done with King in Black. That's probably the best thing I can say about it as Roddykat celebrates.
Yay.
Next up is Marauders number 18. I believe we both read this.
Actually, I did not get to it.
Okay, I'm not. I'm speaking very. I'm going to be speaking in very broad terms. I'm actually going to leave out something in my notes. Don't read my notes. It's written by Jerry Duggan, with art by Stefano Caselli and Matteo Loli, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. The Hellfire Company, as Roddykat knows, is making moves in Madripoor against the Verendi government. But Hominus Verendi, that group that's led by the Human Hellfire Club, ex Hellfire Club members, resurrects an old Hellfire Club idea to strike back.
Okay. Interesting.
All right, I didn't spoil it. Next up, I believe you read this, Miles Morales Spider-Man number 23.
I did.
It's written by Saladin Ahmed, with art by Carmen Carnero, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. This is a King in Black tie-in that brings in fellow champion Miss Marvel during Null's invasion. Do you have anything to add? Because I didn't really think there was much to the issue.
The only thing I have to add to it is, one, it was weird because they're, again, as we said with champions, they're still, as I said in my notes, especially, they're still off in outlawed land on the Marauders ship at some point. Obviously, time being different, moving different. Which actually, that was the other thing I was going to say about Iron Man, because Iron Man is one of the other books that technically, well, there was a one shot with Iron Man and Doctor Doom, so that might count for this. But one of the few books that hasn't yet gone into King in Black, and Miles just kind of gets there now. And the only other thing to say is that I continue to love Miss Marvel and Miles as a team. If they coupled up, that would have been great also, but I know they're still young and all that kind of good mess, but I do love their dynamic with each other nevertheless, and in this issue continues to show that, and I really appreciated it, especially what happened, at the what we see at the end of the issue.
Right.
I still love it.
Well, they're to be continued, so.
Well, yeah, there's that, but still.
Right. The King in Black crossover is not yet done.
Right.
All right. Next up for me is Thor number 12. This is a potential click of the week. And I've been trying to get Roddykat to catch up on his Thor. This issue is outstanding. It's written by Donny Cates, with art by Nick Klein, colors by Matt Wilson, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. The opening fight sequence, including the opening narration, is so freaking good. It is so freaking good. I am not prone to hyperbole. Fans of the show and Roddykat will know I am not prone to hyperbole when it comes to this, but
holy mother forking shirt balls.
It's so good, this opening sequence. Throg and Lockjaw take on Dr. Donald Blake. Doctor Strange makes an appearance while Valkyrie goes on a search to find the person who's pretty much behind this entire mess. So, my understanding is that Roddykat's not too far behind, but far enough behind where I don't think he is caught up on the Donald Blake issues of the past several months. So it's definitely worth catching up, and for ladies and gentlemen and folks of all ages who are listening and watching, this Thor run by Donny Cates is definitely been very good. I definitely recommend, if you're not into some of the slower parts and the I want to say the Galactus stuff that was early on, which kind of served as the lead into this to this new run on Thor. If you're not into that stuff, if that stuff doesn't necessarily quite float your boat, I hate to say this, you could probably skip it, because it really gets good after that. And it, talk about tying in various aspects of the Thor mythos and the greater Marvel universe into the book. So it's really been a lot of fun. Not last on my list. I still have two more books. Sorry, folks. Got a lot of books to get through this week. It was a big week for me. X-Men Legends #1. This is it's not necessarily an anthology book per se, but what it is it's kind of the retcon book, where Marvel is allowing creators to kind of create stories that fill in some of the blanks that maybe they might have wanted to get into. And the reason why I mentioned creators that they might have wanted getting back into what they might have wanted to do back in the day. Our first issue is led by writer Fabian Nicieza, with pencils by Brett Booth to give it that 90s feel, inks by Adelso Corona, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Everybody obviously works for VC that does letters for Marvel. Um, this is a serious blast from the past. The story actually takes place in a big retcon way after X-Men, the 91 Jim Lee Chris Claremont series, number 39, which is well after they both left the book. I actually looked this issue up I could have gone into my collection and dove into the back issue, the long boxes, and taken a look, but I looked it up on Marvel Unlimited, and I actually flipped through that story. It does involve Adam X. And now Adam X is exactly what some of us kind of suspected way back when. Not I, however. I did not suspect this at all. But we'll see how this plays out in the next issue.
Yeah, see, I skimmed this issue, and it took place at a time where I was kind of all pretty much off of X books at the time. So I wasn't familiar with Adam X.
Right.
But like I read through, it's like, okay, I get some of this stuff, but like, yeah, that part with him and some of the other stuff that I kind of skimmed through, that I was like, well, I'll go back to this, but I wasn't really too familiar about.
Right. Well, this issue really does do a good job of refreshing folks' recollections,
Mm-hmm.
and because it does put it into a particular period of time, it did help that I went back to this issue and read it, even though I did read this Legends book first, and then went back to number 39. It might have helped to read 39 first, but that's only in retrospect.
Sure. And I feel like that's probably, in some respect, what they're trying to do with X-Men Legends. Because they're definitely going to be, sounds like they're going to be retouching on like a bunch of old stuff in different ways. So for fans who are familiar with it, will get it, and for fans who are not so familiar with it, might get the notion to go back and read it, or so I feel like it's probably going to serve both purposes, which is not a bad thing. So
absolutely. Last for me this week is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin number 2. There's a lot of credits here, folks, because there's a lot of folks involved. The story is by Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and Tom Waltz. The script is by Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman. Layouts by Kevin Eastman. Pencils and inks by Isao and Isaac Escorza, Ben Bishop, and Kevin Eastman. Colors by Luis Antonio Delgado and Samuel Plata, and letters by Sean Lee. The first big flashback in this issue in the story, really, because the first issue sends us deep into the story of the last Ronin, and mild spoiler alert, I'm going to ring the spoiler bell, at least for anyone who's not familiar with the idea behind this book, although you can kind of get it, it's mildly spoiled by the title, but if you're not familiar with the terminology, I'm going to ring the spoiler bell.
And it's been like 2 months since the first book.
Right, but I'm still going to ring it because you never know, it could always be somebody's first episode.
True.
So. All right, I rang the spoiler bell. It's obviously called Last Ronin, but this book reveals some of the events leading to the loss of the other turtles, where, and this is another spoiler, there is one turtle left. I won't say who it is, but there's one turtle left. And we also find out some of what has happened to April O'Neil in the interim, in the passing, in the interim between the period of time where the number of turtles was reduced and where we find ourselves in this issue. So this is actually a really entertaining book right now. It definitely tickles the nostalgia, fancy, definitely touches upon that. I haven't always been the biggest Turtles fan in terms of the comics. I've always been kind of hit and miss. I wasn't necessarily into some of the stuff that they decided to develop over time in the comics, but all in all, this has proven to be a really interesting story. So I'm willing to stick with it. For anyone who's picking up the actual physical comic, I know that it is a weird, oversized book. It's not quite magazine size, and it's bigger than. It's not quite the DC Black Label stuff, but it's only a little bit bigger than a regular comic, so that collecting it kind of is a pain, but it's still, I think, worth anyone's time that has any sort of passing interest in the Turtles or has like a nostalgia itch that they want to scratch.
Mm. I hadn't had a chance to read this particular issue yet, but I do remember reading the first one, and yeah, it's some, like Agent 70 said, like it definitely sparks some nostalgia, and also like it has an interesting enough premise to want to see where it goes. You know, like
Exactly.
I feel like there's part of this book that's like, okay, we kind of see where this could potentially go, because like Marvel does, and I'm saying this is going to be this way, but Marvel does books like called The End, where it pretty much goes through the last, quote unquote, supposedly the last story ever of of certain characters.
Right.
That, again, that's not saying that this is what this is, but it kind of has shades of that. But also, like I said, it's still pretty interesting enough to see, like, yeah, what's actually going to happen, and how did it get to this point. So I will be
Yep.
definitely checking this out. And that's it for you.
That is it for me. That's a lot of books, man.
That is definitely is. Yeah, I only have a couple of more books because I didn't get to. Well, neither one of us got to the future state stuff this week, or at least not full reads,
Right.
maybe glance and stuff.
Not enough to really talk about it intelligent.
Exactly. But first up for me is MODOK Head Games #3, written by Jordan Bloom and Patton Oswalt. Yes, that Patton Oswalt. Art by Scott Hepburn, which I feel like I know that name from somewhere. I don't know why.
That was just me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that. Colors by Carlos Lopez. Letters by VC's Travis Lanham. And that's it. So basically, wait, you didn't have a chance to read this, and there's really not too much to spoil on his, but in the beginning, and if you're, MODOK.
MODOK. No, I did not have a chance to read this. I want to read it though.
Gotcha. So yeah, let's say I won't spoil anything, and there's really not too terribly much to spoil, but there is an appearance which you saw at the end of last issue, so it won't be that much of a spoil, by one Gwenpool.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much their interactions. I basically said in my I basically said in my notes. Well, one, I still have. So this in another book kind of is weird because, like, okay, Gwenpool, as far as we know, is not a mutant, but she's been on Krakoa. So part of the issue shows her on Krakoa talking to another character, which is kind of slightly amusing, but being Gwenpool being Gwenpool. And then she goes into confronting MODOK, and then what happens with that. Interesting. So, well, hey, that's how it goes.
Hey, that's life. I was
life. Sorry, we're just reacting to some back channel talk. But the crux of the issue is pretty much the interaction between MODOK and Gwenpool, and is in ways kind of as ridiculous as you would think it would, given one and or both of those characters. So that's all I'll say about that. Next book is Spider-Woman #9, written by Carla Pacheco. Pacheco? Yes. Art by Perry Perez. Colors by Frank Darmada. Letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Jessica argues semantics with the High Evolutionary. There are more and more clones of her mom, thanks to the High Evolutionary, and we kind of found out a little bit more about that. I don't know if you plan on reading this or not, because I know you were kind of iffy about Spider-Woman at this point.
I'm on and off. I'm kind of waiting for them to get to the story where she kind of goes back to the old costume.
Right.
So, but I'll probably take a look at it just to see how the High Evolutionary continues to play a role in her story.
Right.
Because I know it's he's supposed to from the beginning,
Mhm.
but obviously all that predates my reading and my familiarity with the character. So.
Right. Let's just say there's probably a slight little bit of retconning, not on that part, but with a couple of things here and there that I won't necessarily get into for you. And I guess we get kind of a minor revelations in regards to that Octavia lady that Jessica's been dealing with, and the inevitable ensues. I'll put it that way without spoiling things. That being said, last book for me. Okay. Interesting. Last book for me is Savage Avengers number 18, which, yes, this book is still going, apparently. We have no idea when this book is going to end.
We were surprised that it got into this high number of double digits.
Right, because at first we weren't sure if it was going to get into the high double digits, and then we're like, no, they said they were going to do it at somewhere in the double digits, like around. We were thinking 15 or 17. We're still not even sure, but now it's going past that, so we still don't know. And I don't recall if they've ever had the limited series addressing on this. So, like I said, at some point we weren't really even sure. I suspect it's still probably going to end at some point, and maybe they just got an extension for whatever other reason, because this has now floated through a couple of events at this point, including now King in Black, which leads us into this. Deadpool's 30th anniversary, and he's in the bar with no name about to rob the Hellfire Club, or so he, Conan, and this other new person named Nightflyer, who has this plan to rob the Hellfire Club, which we just talked about in Marauders, apparently. And we find out that Conan's a little progressive, apparently, but also that he gets allied, which brings us to the King in Black tie-in of sorts, with a symbiote who has a convenient grudge on Cooling Gath. Like, this has been kind of coming in and out of King of Black at certain points, so it's not surprising that it's still there. But we'll see how that works out, because I know they're supposed to be getting up to that last battle of Cooling Gath. And they meet up with some mutants that you would not expect to classically be in the Hellfire Club, and a little thing ensues there. And it says, oh yeah, one of the mutants is Callisto, who basically tells Deadpool, like, you're not a mutant anymore, and if I wish you were, well, it basically says, if you were a mutant, you would be going into the hole, which you know from the X books is a place that no mutants ain't trying to go. So, which brings me to
Sabretooth is down there right now. Apparently.
Sabretooth is the only one that's down there right now. Yes. Wait. Yeah, that's it. So, which brings to the thing like, wait, so when did Deadpool not stop being a mutant? If that's the case, because like if that came up somewhere, then I have no idea what it is, where it was.
You got me. I'm like, what? This is
Yeah,
news to me.
exactly. When I read that, I was like, wait, what? And doubling that with the fact that Gwenpool, who, as far as we know, is not a mutant, but able to just kind of come and go on Krakoa, at her leisure, and apparently even go through the gate. So that's go through gate. So given the nature of her quote unquote powers, we don't know what's that. It never makes sense. I don't like either of the pools, so it doesn't matter. But it's kind of weird. And we have seen Gwenpool on Krakoa before, so again, this is not the first time. It's just still weird. But the last of my notes is that Iceman should know who Ymir is when Conan brings it up, but I guess it doesn't really matter now.
Why does Conan know who Ymir is?
Right. That was the other thing. That was the other thing.
That's
was
a
like
totally different mythology, but whatever.
Right. So I was like, okay, we know, because Conan came back through during War. Wait, was it during War of the Realms? Where he came back through? Well, he was brought through. I can't remember now.
I can't remember.
But even still, I don't recall any interactions with Thor or any Asgards that would even want him knowing who Ymir is. Because he even says like, "Tell the Frost Train I said hello" or something like that. You know, when he kind of goes after Iceman.
It's gone on an adventure since.
Maybe, and yeah, I guess maybe something we've never seen.
No. Yeah, we just missed it.
But still, that's still
We read a lot of books, folks.
We
can't
do.
read them all.
This is true, but it's still kind of weird, regardless of whether it's like that's still kind of weird. The fact that it's like how I didn't even have to say it. 8 to 70 pretty much say exactly what I was thinking. Like, how in the hell he even knew who that was?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Crux of that book, and it's to be continued. So it's going to end up next issue, and it's still going by unabated. Oh wait, did I say the creative team of this book? I don't think I did.
No, go ahead.
Written by Jerry Duggan, art by Kev Walker, colors by Java Tartaglia, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. And that is it for my books.
It's amazing that Savage Avengers is still going.
Right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. And so, folks, we get to Clicks of the Week.
Clicks of the week.
And apparently, because of that back channel chatter that you have heard some dings for, we got at least one from Dirt, who that's you said that. He's going with. Wait, so we're assuming he's going with Thor.
Yes,
12?
he is going with Thor number 12.
Okay, so Thor number 12 for Dirt. And
Yes.
we didn't get anything.
He
from
does
Tim.
admit that he accidentally picked up 2 copies of it, one of the regular cover and one of the variants. So if you're looking for either cover, you should contact at PCN_Dirt and see if you can't pick up one of those copies off of his hands. I am going to second Thor number 12. You could probably tell that I was going to pick it because of my effusive praise for it this week. It was so good. It's so fun. Like I said, that opening sequence, I actually want to go back and read it again now because it was so good.
Gotcha. Let's see. Wait, so we got Dirt. I'm sorry. Did you say yours? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Thor number 12.
Thor number 12 also. Okay, gotcha. Let me write this stuff down while I'm thinking about it. For myself, I think, and we didn't get anything from Tim, so because apparently he's just he's been busy. Understand, man, been busting it.
He's running behind. It's okay.
Yeah, that man's been busting it, so we can cut him some slack. I don't know. This is a weird week because like Black Widow was good.
Right, that would have been my second choice.
Yeah, that might end up being that. What was the other one I said? Guardians was good on its own accord for reasons, but it's still kind of like weird. You know what? Miles was actually, again, from what I said earlier, Miles was also pretty good. I thought, despite being a King of Black tie-in. Like I said, the dynamic between Miles and Kamala is always great to me, and that one still shows that Solid Enemy is like, what, he gets it. He gets it. But yeah, you know what? I think I will go for Black Widow number 5. Shout out to Miles Morales Spider-Man number 23 though. Which, yeah. And that being the case, we are going to go into the news, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through CSPN.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
I have invoked the seldom used double click of the week. And there's a reason why we seldom use them, because it's dumb to do that. Anyway, folks, we are going to go into the comic book news, starting with the animated, starting with the cinematic news, and we start off with MODOK's stop motion series includes 2 major X-Men villains. So, in addition to writing the aforementioned book, we folks know that there's going to be a television show based off MODOK. I believe show ran by Jordan Blum and starring and written by both Jordan Blum and Patton Oswalt. So apparently Jordan Blum confirmed on Twitter that Mr. Sinister will be making an appearance on the show, on the television show specifically, posting a design of the Mad Geneticist on Twitter. For those who missed it, the very fabulous Mr. Sinister will be popping up on Marvel's MODOK in all his deep V-neck glory. Bloom wrote, also suggesting that fans read the current Hellions series from Marvel, and confirming Sinister's design was also influenced by X-Men the Animated Series. And you can see the tweets there. Let's see. Apparently, during an interview, Bloom also revealed that the character design for the Brood Queen who is also going to appear on the show, which seems kind of weird. But also, it's AIM, so I guess it makes sense, given that it's MODOK. So, there's a lot more mutant-related material going into the show than expected. So yeah, that's the thing, and it's got a cast members already. I'm still not really sure when that show is going to happen, but it's going to be on Hulu, so I'll probably never watch it. Next up,
we are in our WandaVision portion of the show, and we're going to be talking about WandaVision episode 6. So, folks, we're getting close to the home stretch. I don't know if you have anything in here about the fact that these last 3 episodes are supposed to be closer to an hour long.
I do not, but I did see something, or I did hear something about that, though.
Right. So we can mention that just now at the top of our discussion of episode 6, and just say that we are getting into the meat of the story. And a lot of stuff happened in episode 6, which is going to have ramifications not just on Wanda, not just on Vision, but on a lot of the Scooby Squad that Monica Rambeau put together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be pretty eventful. I think it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here.
Mm-hmm.
The first story, though, and then we'll talk about the episode as we go through these stories. The first story here involves the darkest commercial so far that has been portrayed in the series, and it seems to hint at Wanda and Pietro's childhood trauma. At least that's what this theory is in this article. The other commercials seem to try to pull back on macabre tones, but this one doesn't hold back. It focuses on a claymation kid on a deserted island, parched and burned under the sun, who says, "I'm so hungry I'd eat anything," which results in a shark pulling up on a surfboard and telling the kid he no longer gets hungry. After asking how the shark did this, the creature credits Yo Magic. Yo Magic. It's a sharp exchange mimicking the Go-Gurt ads from the 90s and 2000s. It absolutely did.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the weakened child is unable to open up the yogurt. And he spends days and nights trying to do so, but he withers away into a skeleton and dies with a tagline saying, "Yo Magic, the snack for survivors." with Wanda and Pietro standing in for the survivors. This is just creepy as all hell.
It was kind of weird, yeah. And at first I was like, wait, so is the shark supposed to be whoever Pietro's representing? But that doesn't seem right. And some people, and obviously, this thing has been picked all to death in various places. The surfboard could be suggesting something. There's references to the monkey's paw in the in the way this goes down, as some people have postulated. So it's a whole thing.
Right. I mean, there's lots of different symbolism that you could interpret into this particular commercial. One of them being, in this article goes on to posit that the shark could symbolize other countries during the suppression and the oppression of Sokovia that offer aid, but they don't help with making any long-lasting reform or changes. And that's why some dissidents like Wanda and Pietro eventually rise up in a war-torn country like Sokovia. So that's one theory of it. But I didn't necessarily think that. Maybe I was just watching it with too superficial an eye. When I watched it, I just thought it was creepy as hell.
Yeah.
And generally lent to the creepy mood of the episode, which is set around Halloween. So that's one aspect of this episode we can talk about. The other aspect I can talk about offhand before we get into the next story is that, much like previous episodes, we are now riffing, the show is now riffing on sitcoms from a certain era of television. And this seemed to echo a sitcom I did not watch, which is Malcolm in the Middle. I recognized it just from having watched the opening of the show enough times to turn away from it, which is funny. No shots fired, really. It wasn't my cup of tea back in the day. So, it just wasn't for me. So ultimately, I recognized it as a Malcolm in the Middle thing, which apparently debuted in the late 90s, like 99-ish.
Right.
So, that we're talking like really late 90s, early 2000s era that this episode plumbed for inspiration.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's pretty much that. Yeah. Wait, let me see. Trying to see if there's something that actually goes. Yeah, we'll get into it. Doesn't matter. There was something I was going to say about it, but it'll come back to me though. We'll move along. Oh wait, that's what I was going to say. So the whole, as said already, the whole Yo Magic thing and the conceit behind the commercial is far different from the other ones, because they were all couched into different eras of stuff, but also were more in line with selling you either TVs or appliances or something like or even Calgon products and stuff like that. Like this one just pretty much goes a wholly different route and doesn't have any obvious references to anything or anybody as the other ones would have done, because obviously the other ones have referenced Hydra, Tony Stark, Stark Industries, that kind of thing. So there's a weird meaning behind this that that's probably, I'm sure we're still not getting, that hasn't come up yet. I don't know. But moving right along, Sword, apparently. So this is a WandaVision theory. And this is kind of going along with a theory that I actually had. I don't know if it's going to bear out that way, but nevertheless, and I think I've mentioned this in passing after we talked last episode, Agent 70. But basically, Sword created Westview is the theory in here, which pretty much goes into the whole Pleasant Hill thing that we were talking about after the show.
Mm-hmm.
And
you even mentioned it during the show.
I might have,
like early on.
Yeah, I might have. I don't know. But there does definitely feels like shade. So basically, I think the crux of the theory, which kind of goes slightly differently than where I was thinking, but it says that so yeah, the other theories aside, that Sword basically created Westview because it was trying to, let's see, according to this, it says Sword is very second center was very settlers, but it makes more sense because so basically they've been tracking Vision during the course of this thing, and they might have something to do with why Westview is a thing in the first place. And I think part of what my theory was into was like, we know Jimmy Woo had somebody in protective custody there, which probably still would also slide slightly different from what we know of Pleasant Hill and that standoff Avengers event. But the crux of the whole Pleasant Hill and standoff thing was that Real Hero basically used a part of the Cosmic Cube and made a place to use as a prison for supervillains by wiping their brains and giving them newer, different identities, so that they wouldn't know anything about their old life, which not too far unlike what we see Wanda doing in WandaVision with folks. I think we can safely say at this point that's what's going on at some level. We don't know how much control she's having over it, or even how that's, I'm sure we're about to get to that in this next episode that's coming in a few hours, but whatever. But the whole Pleasant Hill, the standoff thing, kind of bears into the fact that what this theory is saying, that like, Sword probably made this for some odd reason, which we won't get into the whole thing. So, like I said, I'm with part of the theory, but based on the fact that might have something to do with that. But like I said, it kind of skews from where I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll see if that's the case, because we also know that it does seem like Wanda's not necessarily pulling all of the strings, and which kind of lends itself to another theory that somebody's tugging at her, and
Right.
some people are saying it might be Sword. But again, which kind of lends itself to this theory also, but we'll see. Next up.
All right, so I've got the Hexagon story, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So WandaVision may have finally explained its hexagons. I'm pulling it up now. The shape was used to frame Wanda and Vision at the end of their episodes, and the warped reality of the town of Westview is also contained in a hexagonal shape. Countless theories were born as a result to explain the presence of these hexagons on the series, ranging from the resurgence of Iron Man 3 villain's AIM to the devil of the Marvel Universe himself, Mephisto. However, in the series' latest episode, the use of hexagons may have been finally explained, and it's not what anyone expected. After last week's We Interrupt This broadcast, WandaVision's latest Halloween episode states that, hold on, as it turns out, the agency monitored Westview and revealed that the sitcom reality was contained inside a perfect hexagonal shape. This was no accident, considering that hexagons also appeared, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Jesus, I hate these articles.
They do tend to go on a bit.
Right. So, spoiler alert, when referring to the sitcom reality, at the heart of Westview, Dr. Darcy Lewis, people,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Darcy Lewis.
That's right.
refers
Give her
to it
respect.
as the hex, given its hexagonal shape. While the MCU has yet to go into details about the nature of the Scarlet Witch's abilities in the comics, her powers are known as hex magic. So, therefore, the presence of hexagonal shapes in WandaVision may simply be a way to work this hex magic into the stories while having it make sense. Of course, it's always possible that there could be bigger meaning behind the hexagons, but sometimes the simplest explanation is the one that makes the most sense. We will see with 3 episodes remaining.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and they might not mean as much as people think they are, but this is what we do
Or
with
they
things like
mean
this.
more, right?
Right,
That's the
or it
thing.
could be.
So
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see though. Next up, bing, how WandaVision kept Evan Peters' casting a secret. So apparently, WandaVision's Kat Dennings shared how the Marvel Studios Disney Plus series was able to keep Evan Peters' casting as Quicksilver as a secret from the Marvel Cinematic Universe fans for so long. Dennings shared that Peters' casting was not only a massive surprise, quote unquote, for fans, but that the show kept his presence a secret from her too, quote unquote, cloaking the actor on set. While she was a guest on Jimmy Kimmel Live, she says, I was the last person to know anything, she said. Obviously, that was a massive surprise, she said, referring to when Peter showed up at Wanda's doorstep at the end of episode 5. That's WandaVision episode 5, not Star Wars episode 5, because there would be some crazy person. Anyway, I mean, they kept it from me a little bit as well, she added. I wasn't sure what's going on while we were shooting. They cloaked him in this thing so no one could take a drone shot of him getting out of the van or whatever. It was a big secret, but they pulled it off. So, cool. Next up.
Right. So, and we'll get into more about the episode as we wrap up this story. But Marvel didn't tell Kat Dennings that her contract was for WandaVision. I love this. Pretty good. It's pretty good. In that same interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Kat Dennings talked about how she wasn't expecting a call from Marvel Studios, nor that the studio was looking to use her character in the show. She was totally surprised. So she didn't know that this was coming in. She got cold called. She got cold called by Marvel, and she was just like, "Yeah, of course, whatever you want, I'll do it." So she didn't know what it was. She knew that Disney Plus shows were kind of coming out. She didn't know which one this could be. So she, in fact, was a little bit surprised because her character had no contact with anyone in the WandaVision world. So, and she denied, of course, the snipers are out there. She denied knowing what the show has in store for her character. I only know what I shot. I love it. Dennings responded when asked by Kimmel. They're never going to answer that, Jimmy. We know this.
Right. Well, I mean, a couple of them would, but
yeah.
Catch them at the right time.
I was about to say Marvel Studios has taken steps to keep those two from doing any more damage.
Exactly.
So that's essentially it with with the stories. We can start talking about the episode again. As I mentioned before, this is a Halloween themed episode as well as a Malcolm in the Middle themed or styled episode. We continue with the story of the resurrected sort of Pietro Maximoff, aka Quicksilver. And there's a couple of things that we find out in this episode that kind of throw a little bit of a wrench into some of the thinking here. One is that obviously we recognize the actor Evan Peters as the Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe, but he seems to have the memories of the MCU Pietro played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. So it's very disconcerting to hear him talk about some of the details, even though they're fuzzy. He talks about getting shot like a chump in the street for no reason at all, apparently. But we know that there was a reason for him to sacrifice himself in Age of Ultron. He doesn't remember that, so that's a little weird. And we also get a flash, much like we did with the Vision in episode 4 right, episode 4, where we saw the Vision post Thanos ripping the Mind Stone out of his forehead. We see the dead, the dysfunctional or the non-functioning corpse of the Vision standing there. In this case, we see Quicksilver, Evan Peters Quicksilver, but with the same or similar bullet wounds suffered by Aaron Taylor Johnson, Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. So just a brief flash. So that part happens, and then there the crux of the story, as I said before, is a Halloween episode. So we get a couple things happening in the episode that, at least up to this point, we really haven't seen. One is that there, up until this point, there have not been any children running around other than Tommy and Billy before this episode. But in this episode, because it's Halloween themed, we get a ton of children running around Westview, and that actually becomes an issue. That's something that Quicksilver himself brings up.
Yep, this is true. Which actually brings up, real quick before you go on, brings up something that I have a theory about with Quicksilver. Like, I know there have been people already saying that that's probably not actually him, not neither version of him. But I'm kind of wondering if Loki is around and is portraying this version of Pietro Quicksilver. Because if you think about when they were talking during that one scene, and he was asking all these questions about how she do this and all that kind of all this stuff, and he was pretty well aware that she was, that this was her doing. I can't imagine that Quicksilver would. I mean, even being a twin, and whatever connections that they would have therein, would potentially know that. Maybe that's not true, but I don't know. So it would have to be someone who would have some sort of knowledge to that. And obviously, the more obvious folks would be like Dormammu, Mephisto, XYZ. But
right. I've also heard Nightmare.
Nightmare also has been batted around. So yeah, that's also.
I actually like Nightmare as a possibility to tie into Doctor Strange, because we know that Wanda's going to appear in the next Doctor Strange movie.
Yep.
Any other thoughts before I move on?
And that's that. Like I said, we do know that Loki's still floating around, and the mannerisms that kind of like, granted, that could have just been Evan Peters, portrayer as Quicksilver, but I feel like some of his mannerisms while he was talking up until the time that Wanda zapped him kind of felt like Loki.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all.
I get it. I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple things with regards to the interaction between Quicksilver, this version of Quicksilver, and Wanda. Well, one, Pietro seems to know that Westview, in its current form, is a construct made by Wanda, and he just understands and goes with it. And Wanda seems to not fully remember how she got to this point. She just remembers, she doesn't remember how she created it. She says that she only remembers feeling completely alone and empty, and endless nothingness. So it sounds like there's another factor in play when it comes to Wanda's creation of Westview, at least from that explanation, or from that little bit of dialogue.
Which some people have posited that, and I kind of sort of believe it, that maybe she was in a coma, or is. Well, not is, but maybe she was in a coma at some point, which would also go back to the comics at some point. But,
we'll see. We'll see. That doesn't necessarily. Well, yeah. I mean, you never know because of the nature of her powers.
Right.
The fact that she interacted with Monica doesn't sound like she's under. That she's in like a comatose state right now, but you never know.
Right, but she was right, but she might have been before this happened, because that's why she says she only feels nothing, completely alone, empty.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Could be spitballing.
It's theory. Exactly. It's a theory, and at this point, they're just as valid as any others.
Pretty much.
Which is the best part about this show.
Yeah, exactly.
We're absolutely dealing with, and I'm just going to pause the recap on the show and the discussion just to say that if there's one thing that WandaVision has really benefited from, is that because it's out on a weekly basis, despite the fact that everyone wants to binge it and everyone wants to be done with it and find out what's going on, the fact that it's out on a weekly basis lends to it being the talk of social media, of the water cooler, for at least a weekend and a few days, up until people who may not be first night viewers kind of catch up on it.
Right.
So they're definitely dominating the conversation. I'll give them that.
Yeah, and as people have been also saying, it's like, back those of us of a certain vintage didn't have the ability to binge. We had to wait for the next week for the next show to go along. So most of us are like, no, this is we're excited to see. We want it to happen sooner rather than later, but hey, this is the thing that's happened. That's why
But
I
then
still kind of binge like that, because as Agent 70 knows, been going through my recap of rewatch of Clone Wars, and I only hit like a couple episodes at a time, and not just like blah 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 like the whole seasons.
Oh, I see that. See, I differ, but only because if it's available, I'll binge it. If it's
Sure.
not, I don't mind.
Well,
I think that's the primary difference that I have with these people that complain.
Right.
Because I remember what it's like to
Mhm.
have to wait, so I'm cool with that. But getting back to the episode, as I said, it's a Halloween themed episode, so not only are decorations up, but the characters are also dressed up in costume. One, Pietro actually puts on his comic accurate costume.
A generic version of, yes, which all of the costumes are pretty much generic versions. With I want to say the exception of Wanda's, but even hers is kind of, which she actually looked good in that. So
Would you say version?
Generic versions.
Generic?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, kind of comic accurate. You know, like in terms of
yeah,
color
totally.
scheme and patterns.
With what they're going for, yeah, it's still it's still a thing.
I
Even
get it,
down to
absolutely.
Pietro's hair. Yeah.
Right. Lots of hairspray.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, as Roddykat mentioned, the Scarlet Witch is dressed up, and she plays it off as that she's dressed up as a Sokovian fortune teller, which made me laugh. I'm like, well, I guess that's how they can explain away that costume.
Sure.
And the Vision is a Mexican wrestler.
Which I when that part came, I kind of was like, what? I did kind of a double take. I'm like, and even Vision says, like, I know how much you love your Mexican wrestling. So I'm like, is that a reference to something that I don't remember?
You got me. I thought I was just like, what? Where is this coming from?
Right. And obviously, you know, the Vision isn't, so I know people who only know the Vision from the MCU may or may not know that he would dress up in all, like, he was basically green and pretty much green and yellow, you know, and red faced, and with the solar jewels. So it's a pretty different than what we see in the MCU version.
All right. And what's funny is that Tommy and Billy are actually wearing the somewhat comic accurate costumes as well.
Yep.
For their respective characters, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So before we move on from the costumes, it's interesting that when this is lending into one of the theories, when Quicksilver says to the children, "Unleash hell, demon spawn," that's very much out of character for an uncle. So
not really. If it's the wild uncle that's, you know, like, hey, just comes across the, you know, the wild and crazy Uncle Buck type uncle who just don't, you know, who just comes in, ruins the kids and leaves, it's not that far off.
I guess, but you know, I just kind of, you know, that one, that particular bit of dialogue stuck in my mind.
Oh,
so
totally, because it's going back to what, you know, it's going back to some comic book stuff with respects to Billy and Tommy.
Right. So I'm glad to see that mentioned here in this little recap. I'm kind of paging my way through.
Right.
So what they do, what Wanda does tell the kids though, as they're going through, there's a couple of hijinks involved with trick or treating and whatnot, but she tells them that they're not supposed to go beyond a certain road, which is one hint of what's going on. That she knows more about the hex and its limitations than we've been led to believe so far.
Right. Before you go any further with that, there was one more piece about because I'm looking at that same article you're looking at, and they make a note of Wanda's headpiece, which says also resembles horns. I'm sitting here like, that's pretty much how her thing has always been. So, but they're saying is
sorry, you're looking at the CNET one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so the last line of that part you was just going off of was like, you know, they talk about, yeah, and they were talking like it resembles horns, possibly indicated that it's she's under demonic influence. Like, no, that was just her classic costume. It was always like that. And also there was a part about that Unleash Hell about may possibly be a clue to you know, his true identity, which, you know, you already know the theories of who the big bad might be on that one. And going back to that road part. So I don't know, did you go the same place that a lot of people did, about who that might be a reference to? The road in question?
Alice?
Yeah. So some people are saying, well, because I saw one video that said it was possibly President Ellis of the MCU.
Right, that's what I thought.
I didn't think
I thought it was
that.
a reference to,
Right. Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying I thought that was a reference. That was the reference that
Right.
at least as I remember, that president that was in office during, I want to say, the period around Avengers, Iron Man 3,
Mm-hmm.
Age of Ultron was
Mhm.
a President Ellis.
Right.
So that's what I remember.
Right, and I have definitely seen and heard that being the case. But my first thing, I went to Warren Ellis, which
The writer.
right, the writer who, as far as I remember, has nothing to do with either Vision or Scarlet Witch at any point in his career that I know of. So, Monica, yes, but
Right.
because of Next Wave, but yeah, but Vision and Scarlet Witch, as far as I know, hasn't really had any hands on them that we know of. So we don't know. The President one probably is more legit, is as legit as if we got so far, if it even means anything at all.
Gotcha.
All right, but go ahead. Sorry, continue.
All right, it's all right. So as Vision is kind of straying from the center of town where Wanda is, what he's running into is that, and this was creepy as all hell when they portrayed it, and much credit to the actors who were doing this and portraying this. He finds the townspeople of Westview going in loops or just standing still, which kind of is a hint at the limit of her influence. Maybe she needs to be nearby to exert her full level of influence on these residents of Westview.
Mm-hmm.
And
they were basically buffering.
What's that?
They were basically buffering.
Right. And one woman has a tear running down her face, which suggests that it's true. So, what Vision discovers near the edge of town, near was it Ellis Avenue, I think.
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Vision discovers Agnes sitting in her car. She seems to have been driving towards the avenue, and I guess the control that Wanda was exerting seemed to have gotten to a point where she herself was kind of stuck in a rut. And Vision kind of does his little touchy
reprogramming,
like kind of remove the hex off of them, or at least reboot their minds for a brief second.
Mm-hmm.
And Vision does that to Agnes, and she says, "Hey, aren't you one of the Avengers? Are you here to help us?" And Vision's like, "Who are the Avengers?" Which is very jarring to hear.
Yes, and very, very telling.
So, this particular article posits, or at least this has a suspicion about Agnes possibly faking this not knowing what's going on.
I thought that too. I mean, especially because especially with everyone that Vision had come up to at the edge of town before that seemed to be in a more stuttered state than she ended up being even before he programmed her. It just feels like she was playing like she was like, oh wait, play dead, just stuck there.
Right. So I mentioned that the boys, Tom and Billy, gain superpowers. Like the same powers that they do in the comics. As we continue to follow the Vision, though, he steps out, or at least tries to step out of the Westview barrier, and starts to deteriorate and decay, and starts to lose bits of himself. When the breach is detected, the SWORD teams, response teams, react to the breach. And something that I kind of glossed, I didn't really get a chance to talk about, and isn't really mentioned in this recap article, is that the Monica Rambeau Scooby Squad, including Dr. Darcy Lewis and Agent Jimmy Woo, are basically escorted out of or at least are escorted out of the main meeting area, and are supposed to be escorted off the base, but they overpower their SWORD guards and go into disguise to try to gain some intel. And what they do find out is that SWORD is able to track Vision by his vibranium the rate of vibranium decay that he's going under, because it's it's at least a Marvel Universe element, so they know the decay rate, so they can track vibranium.
Mm-hmm.
So they are able to track that, and that creates some questions as to what Sword's purpose is, or has been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's some of the articles I've seen talk about what Sword is really about as a result of what they discover on this little side quest.
Right.
But as the breach occurs, Dr. Darcy Lewis also tries to respond and yells out, "You got to help him!" While I think Monica and Jimmy make a break for it to try to get some more help.
Right. And now hold that thought right there, because there was that one part that did come up before that. So they get attempted to be escorted out of the base. Some people make a note about the ponchos being some relation to what Thor did in Thor 1, but I don't sure, I guess, whatever. But so they go into this other place, and they kind of hatch their plan to go either get help or something, because Monica's got an engineer friend, which we still don't know, and there's theories about that. So Monica and Jimmy Woo go off to that, while Dr. Darcy's like, I'm gonna stay here, and because there's this one other firewall thing that I need to crack, because it might be something big. So that what leads to what Agent 70 was just saying about them going to get help while Darcy stays, and she ended up where he's talking about.
Right.
So continue.
Right. So, but as I was saying, Vision is trying to make a break for it through the Westview barrier, and implores the guards to save the people.
Mm-hmm.
Or help the people, I think he says.
Yeah, which we also note that this kind of answers a question about Vision that I know some people have had, in the fact that whether he would be able to exist outside of the barrier or not. And given this, we kind of see that, but also that it's not a total just disappearing, and might have something to do with the Mind Stone that he's wearing. As to why it took so long as to that happen, but we definitely get it's like, well, clearly he can't exist for too long outside of the barrier.
So what ends up happening is that Billy, thanks to his Wiccan powers, senses what's going on with Vision and tells Wanda, and Wanda reacts by expanding the Westview hex, the boundaries of the wall, and in doing so envelops the Sword base, which becomes a circus, which I found funny.
Yeah.
The agents become clowns, and Darcy, we don't know what she's going to become yet. That's going to be interesting.
Right. Yeah, she was like the first one to phase through the thing, and as she tries to utter a pseudo curse word, but we don't get to
fudge.
Yeah, she does say fudge. But we don't get to see what she becomes, so I don't know if that's just like, oh, we're just gonna save this for next episode. But everybody else we get to see that gets phased through and turned, we definitely see what happens to them.
Right.
Including acting director. Well, acting director, he kind of got away, because Monica and Jimmy was far enough away to where they got away from it, and the director was just out of reach. Basically, seems like.
Right. Right. He does get away, as do Jimmy and Monica. So, we talked about the ad before.
Mm-hmm.
There is a mystery that comes up with Monica Rambeau, because apparently.
That was the part I forgot. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Darcy reveals that going through the hex twice has rewritten Monica's cells. It's unclear how this has changed her, but it reminds Monica of her mother's cancer, and she's apparently unwilling to worry about it right now. I don't know about that.
But we know.
She knew she had powers already.
See, that was the kind of thing that seemed, because they had been playing with that the whole during the whole 6 episodes, that she may or may not have her powers, or she's just intuitive in some kind of way. I get the feeling that this is pretty much cementing the fact that now this is how she's going to get her powers, because of going back in again, which she will probably do next episode.
That's fine by me.
Yes,
Happy
exactly.
To see Monica get her power.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes her one of the more, depending on what power level they give her, because they do kind of nerf. I hate to use that video game term, but they do kind of nerf a lot of the powers in the MCU.
Right.
not that they didn't try to nerf her powers in the Marvel universe
They
itself,
definitely
but
have.
but they definitely, it depends on what they write into the show, and into the MCU about what her power level will be,
Mhm.
because she will be a welcome addition to any Avengers roster.
Hell yeah. One of my favorites, definitely. Now, we don't know if we're going to get her breaking breaking down equipment as she did in her origin from Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16. I doubt that kind of seriously at this point, but that'd be a bummer.
But it would be nice to see her, because essentially what she can do at her top level was, take out starships the same, not the same way that Captain Marvel does it in Endgame.
Oh, and actually,
like flying
even
through
better,
them, but literally blowing them up from outside.
right? Actually, yeah. As of like Ultimates, the last Ultimates with that Al Ewing's, she was almost godlike, but they nerfed her after that. At the end of that, which I hated. But
Right,
nah,
they extended her power set a little bit, right?
a lot.
Well, no, I mean from where they had brought her back, from her original one where she had kind of depleted it during that Avengers run.
Right, but they pretty much made it to where it's like, nah, she's pretty much godlike and pretty much can't die. But then like I said, at the end of the series, they was like they dialed her back to a good extent.
Gotcha. All right. So that's that. I'm just looking to see, if you want to cover these observations and WTF questions, it's fine. I don't see anything here that I would wanted to discuss other than, Hayward, this dude from Sword, who's really just trying to kill Wanda.
Yeah, well, there was the file called Project Cataract or whatever that this thing mentions. Like, right. Yeah, that's something, and that seems like it has something to do with the tracking of vision or whatever the case may be. There was also a reference to this thing kind of, I'm not crazy about the way this recap is going, but at least they did some stuff. But Kick-Ass was brought up by I think it was Billy and Wanda kind of reiterated it, which, as folks know, Aaron Taylor Thomas and both Evan Peters and Aaron Taylor Thomas were in that movie. Aaron Taylor Thomas played the title character. Taylor Johnson, excuse me. I don't know where I get that from.
I was about to say, you're thinking of the home improvement.
Yeah, I know, right? Which is so I'm not even trying to think about, but yeah, so they were in Kick-Ass, and obviously that's a reference to Kick-Ass, and probably has nothing to do with that being that movie being anywhere near this universe, because it was not. So I kind of laughed at that though.
Reference.
Yeah.
So, but that's pretty much it for episode 6.
Well, some people made was talking. I think I saw one video talking about that tattoo that he had. And someone, I remember seeing something that said, or I was watching a video that said that might have been a reference to House of M, but apparently, according to this, that says Mom, and that's his real tat.
Right. Exactly, which is lame.
Yeah. So
people read into anything, but they're looking for any clues, man, which is great.
Even in this article, because they even talk about it's a reference to the next to the Doctor Strange movie.
That's so funny.
But outside of that, yeah.
Yeah, and the writer, I was about to say, and the writer of this has got to be a little bit of a younger vintage, because the episode reminded the writer of how much they missed the sitcoms of the 90s and 2000s. I'm like, yo, we're already outside of my sitcom appreciating age at that point.
I know, right? Yeah, like we had a couple of decades under our belt, so outside of that, like a few more decades.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but with that said, that's it. That's it for our discussion on WandaVision episode 6. Episode 7 is right around the corner as of the date and time of this recording. And
Jimmy Woo was actually quite effective when that. Why didn't somebody tell me the plan when that whole thing came down? I was like, all right, yeah, let's see more of that.
Yes, that was very cool to see. Like, listen, Jimmy's an FBI agent. He's not one of he's not always a bumbling agent,
Right. Oh, I mean, he never was. It's just like he has a comic, just kind of had comic bent to him.
Right.
Oh yeah, and then of course there's the theory that Reed Richards is probably who who Monica is going to meet? I don't think so. Part of me kind of thinks it's Scott Lang.
Is he an aerospace engineer though?
I mean, was he ever? But I mean, he at the end, if I recall, they were kind of sort of hinting to him kind of learning the trade with when he was messing with when he was working with Hank Pym and them at the end of, well, not in, during the course of Ant-Man and Wasp and all of that. Or it was very loose. I'm not saying it was like a direct, like, hey, he was in the trenches doing this and that and the other, but it felt like it was kind of intonated. And and obviously it's me pretty much going more off of his comic, side where he actually did study to be an engineer, at that. But I'm not saying it was a I'm saying it's a stretch.
I've heard all sorts of MCU related theories.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard Rocket. I've heard.
Where would she have come across Rocket? I mean, well, okay, she working with Sword. Yeah, sure.
As a member of Sword, because
have they been?
I mean, it's tough because this is supposed to be in the wake of Endgame, and she got blipped.
Right.
So she really hasn't had a lot of time to interact with someone like Rocket.
Exactly, she came back after the fact that everybody was pretty much gone, or the Guardians would have been gone, as far as we know.
Well, what I was going to say is we don't know that particular ending timeline either. Like we don't know how much interaction she would have with him, given the fact that they were flying off in space at the end of Endgame with Thor. There's always, the theory. Another theory was it would be one of her little Skrull friends, who would be up on the peak.
The science
I've
dude.
heard lots of them.
Yeah, the science dude maybe from
Yep.
cause I just rewatched Captain Marvel recently.
Yep.
But I don't know. See, here's the thing, because I've actually been thinking about that part, and we can go on after this because I know we got time. It's getting late. But she blipped. It's been 5 years. Okay, so her mom Maria died 2 years in, and then 3 years later, that's when everybody got brought back. Presumably, at the time when everybody got brought back, was the direct time, possibly around around the time that she came back in WandaVision. So I can't say while we don't know necessarily the time frame of when she was at the hospital to when she met up with Sword. I kind of doubt she would have had, because I feel like by that time the battle was long gone and everybody was gone, and she's just kind of getting like, hey, here's what happened from what intel they got. So I kind of doubt that she would have interacted with any of the Guardians around that time, because I think they probably would have left.
I doubt it too, but I've heard the theory.
Yes.
So, and there is always email from raccoons. So you never know.
I mean, but that's the other thing. Like, have they been back to Earth? Like, we don't know. And yeah, I guess so. There is space email and
emails. Yeah, there's space emails, which we know are part of canon.
Yes.
In the MCU.
This is true.
So, but yeah, I mean, my hope. I honestly would love the fact that they would backdoor the introduction of the FF into this. Just under everybody's nose, and it would just blow everyone's mind.
I don't think they would do it here. I think they would wait for Doctor Strange to do it.
We will see. We have 3 episodes to find out.
Right. Like, it does make sense if that is the case, but I was like, why? And I'm not saying waste it, but why would they do it here when they got Doctor Strange and, make it a bigger affair for the FF,
Why would it be bigger there?
Because it would be more than likely if they don't introduce mutants properly here, which we don't have, which I suspect they're probably making lengths to do, which it would also still be on that same lines. The better place for it would be in Doctor Strange, because then we like, because it wouldn't necessarily be, well, it would be bigger in the fact that, like, hey, all these multiverses are collapsing on each other if they do something like that, and then, hey, we have reports for this family who went into space, who disappeared. Now, granted, yeah, they seem to be setting up the fact that the space fight up here is kind of, but by the fact that they already said, hey, we had some astronauts to disappear.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely doing the legwork to do that here, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like it would be something they would do in Doctor Strange.
I have no. I'm willing to wait.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not willing to discount any theory that's not completely discountable.
Right. And well, see, that was what I was going to
You
say
know?
earlier, because everything is on the table until it's not.
Right. You know, like unless it's completely discountable, you know, like completely just, you know, nuts. We just kind of have to keep it, you know, we have to keep it under consideration. So, but
Mhm.
anyway, that is our WandaVision discussion. You're up next.
Indeed. Blah, blah, blah. Let me push back to the news here. Pew, whoop. And get rid of that one. Hawkeye's Haley Steinfeld. I'm going to assume that's how it is. Steinfeld shows off Kate Bishop's quiver. So apparently there are set photos from the Hawkeye show giving a glimpse at Haley Steinfeld's character Kate Bishop with her trademark quiver and bows. You can see, if you're watching the video, the tweet that she put out from it. It's cute. She's looks like in the back of a car or something, and she's like looks like she's half asleep, and she's got the quiver right there, and yeah, and she's dressed in her presumable Hawkeye gear. So there you go. That's that. And I think there's been another one that I know that was probably referenced in another article, but we don't necessarily have to go into that. Yeah, there's that. Next.
Alrighty, next up. So I guess this is an opinion piece.
Pretty much.
That Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes deserves a Disney Plus revival. I agree with this.
That's why I put it in here. I totally agree.
Right, the cartoon was canceled far too soon, but the success of Disney Plus provides the perfect opportunity to revive the series. This was a Disney XD show, and you know, giving this cartoon a platform on Disney Plus, which one it already has, and two, but giving it that kind of level of support on the Disney Plus platform, I think, is warranted and would really benefit it. So I think it would definitely be a plus. No pun intended.
Yeah, it got 2 solid seasons, and it went farther than I remember it going when I watched it. I'm probably going to rewatch it again. In fact, I kind of already started, you know, not unintentionally.
What? Did you finish Clone Wars yet? I'm kidding. I'm not kidding.
You're not kidding. I know you're not kidding. But hey, look, I'm on season 6. I'm almost there, so it's fine. Earth Mightiest Heroes came out. I loved the hell out of that show. Avengers Assemble is what it is, which was the show that came after it. It's all right, but yeah, I would really love to see them revisit Earth Mightiest Heroes. They kind of went a lot of places though during the course of those 2 seasons, and fairly quickly, because they did, like, you know, there was a bunch of Ultron stuff. They did Galactic Storm. Like, I'm not saying they don't have more stuff to go on, especially now. Right. But I would love to see that happening, because I love that version of the show. Next up, Zendaya teases running from aliens in Spider-Man 3. So Spider-Man 3 star Zendaya may have revealed an intergalactic new title to detail, about the MCU movie. In a conversation with promising young woman star Carey Mulligan for Variety, Zendaya seemed to confirm that extraterrestrials of some kind will play a role in the upcoming Spider-Man film, which, as we saw at the end of that last film, is pretty confirmed. Well, at least confirmed as of them being around at the end of that movie, but any interactions with anybody on Earth is outside of what already happened during the course of that movie is what it is. These things go by fast. We still have a lot left to do, Zendaya says. It's like running from aliens and things you can't see. Part of that is kind of fun. A lot of what we do is escapism, being able to play a teenager again. So, and obviously this article is, she's
early 20s,
mid-20s?
Right?
Yeah, early to mid-20s.
Getting to play a teenager again. Come on.
I know, right? Which, you know, I mean, look, as she looks, I mean, I don't know how old she actually, let's look that up real quick.
I think she's like,
she's
20,
very much,
21.
no, I think she's a little, yeah, she's 24. I thought so. So she's a little older than, yeah. Both her and Tom Holland are 24, which they both look way younger than they actually are. So it's an easy mistake for anyone to make.
Absolutely.
But that being said, let's see. That's pretty much that. And obviously, this article is taking that running from aliens bit, you know, to an extent. So,
Right.
who's to say if the scrolls come back up if that's the case? Because we know they showed up at in that movie. So, next.
Next up, the Marvel Studios has gotten the film rights to The Punisher and Jessica Jones back from Netflix. So, the 2-year period where Disney could not put out any shows with these characters in it has passed after Netflix canceled all of their Marvel titles. The window has now closed, meaning Jessica Jones and Punisher as the last 2 characters, and the related characters that were in their shows are now eligible to be used by Marvel Studios.
Which, going back to, yeah, definitely. Which now apparently this is a fairly new thing to come up. As I said with the She-Hulk thing a couple of weeks ago, whenever that was, we brought that up. Like, now they can actually use Patsy. But they apparently already have somebody cast for She-Hulk's best friend. So that's a little thing, but that's just something that was kind of interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah, and I know Patsy being the friend's kind of a later thing, and we don't know if this whoever this best friend ends up being is also a later thing or not, because we don't know where they're pulling from for that show. Next up, though, Ducktales. Disney announces oversized series finale date, and some people were like, "Why?" Ducktales may not Ducktales may not continue for season 4, but its cast still wanted to celebrate the 3 prior years of the beloved animated series with a sing-along for fans. Ahead of Ducktales' 90-minute season 3 finale, which is funny because I think the beginning was 90 minutes also. The cast, including David Tennant, Danny Pudi, Ben Schwartz, Bobby Moynihan, Kate Micucci, Bette Bennett, and Tox Ola Gondoye, and Paget Bruce. I apologize for butchering anybody's name. Got to do that. Don't have to do that, but still. Gathered together once more virtually to sing the show's iconic theme song as they did in the beginning. The final episode of DuckTales will air on Disney XD on March 15th at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there you go, folks. DuckTales. I still have yet to see more than the first couple of issues. I know they did a lot with that show, including canonize pretty much the whole Disney afternoon. So who's to say there's going to be some more folks showing up with shows at some point? Next up.
All right. Next up, Hasbro has officially launched an official G.I. Joe YouTube channel, and it will include the complete full seasons of the animated shows G.I. Joe Renegades and G.I. Joe Sigma 6. The channel will also feature brand new content for Joe fans to enjoy. Cool.
Boo! Both of those shows are garbage. Actually, wait, was it Sigma 6? No, Renegades was the one they were on the run. That was garbage. Sigma 6 was not great either. Yeah, neither one of them were great.
We're not the target audience.
I mean, you're right, but still, boo. Actually, I will take this note also to say that, so we talked about the Ghostbusters channel that had the pilot of the Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters specifically show, because there was another Ghostbusters show. They have added other episodes since then, and they have even put the pilot and I believe a couple of episodes of the Extreme Ghostbusters on that channel. So if you are out there, you can check that out. Also, I've noticed a couple of other. I've also noticed a couple of other channels bring up, because there's like a She-Ra channel, but that one's kind of coincided with the He-Man channels that's already up, and there's also a Brave Star channel that has popped up. So there's a lot of cartoon channels that are showing episodes of their respective shows popping up on YouTube more often than they were in the past. That's not bootlegged. I mean, that's still happening, but still, you know. But there are more official channels that are doing that thing more than not. So something to look out for if you're of a certain vintage and looking to check out some older cartoons. Hadn't seen the Gem and the Holograms one yet, but who knows? Anything can happen. Next up, and shout out to the folks coming through, whether you're on YouTube and the Twitch channel. Appreciate you being here. If you've got questions, let us know, or anything.
I was about to say, did you do this Transformers film one? This is you.
No, that's not me. I didn't do it. I just did the Ducktales.
I was about to say, what were you just jibber jabbering?
Oh wait, no, that is me. I was okay. I ain't jibber jabber. I was
just like listening. I was like, wait, is he talking about this story?
No, I was talking about the G.I. Joe story that you were just talking about. Right, and then I was talking about the Ghostbusters and other cartoon channels that just cropped up in the last few.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
this is me. Yes. There's a report that from the next Transformers film is eyeing a quote unquote, and this is funny as hell, Tessa Thompson like quote unquote lead. Which I know I was talking to some people online about this, and they had the same thing I said, and saying like they basically sounds like they can't afford Tessa Thompson, so that's why they're looking for a Tessa Thompson like lead. Which I don't know if she would do. I mean, obviously she did Win in Black, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. So whether she would do it or not, who even knows? But it basically says here that it's a report from some live action movie blog that's indicating that the next Untitled Transformers movie is looking to cast a performer similar to Thompson, with examples including Ruth Negga, Journey Smollett, and Zoe Kravitz. I don't think any of them would do it. I'll be brutally honest, especially Ruth Negga. So
I was about to say, these are actresses who are pretty, they're pretty accomplished.
Yes, exactly. Like if they can't get Tessa Thompson, I highly find it doubtful they're going to get none of those three. So, so that's that. And I know Tessa Thompson's kind of actually been busy lately with some things in front of and behind the scenes. So
I was about to say she's on Thor 4. So.
I mean, outside of that, but she's also got apparently some other stuff kind of cooking.
Like she's literally on set right now.
Mm-hmm. So next up.
All right, Mortal Kombat. All right.
Matter of fact, you could do the next one too.
Oh, okay.
Because it's related.
Yeah, I was about to say motion. Some motion character posters revealed for Kano and Sub-Zero revealed the premiere date of February 18th. Thursday, February 18th at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time for the new trailer, which premiered. So we've got that in hand now. I have not watched this trailer. Have you, Roddykat?
I have. It's good. Matter of fact, I was on somebody's stream earlier this morning, and when it dropped, and we were watching it there. And like I said before the show, they seem to be they're getting it right. Seem like quote unquote right. Like this is not going to be as well. We still don't know. Like the cast seems to be straight, and the action that was definitely portrayed in the thing was definitely Mortal Kombat. Like there was blood and gore and fatalities and things going off, and folks showing up. There's a couple of choices I'm still kind of about, but most of the cast, seems cool, and they're doing something cool with it. So you should definitely check out the trailer. If you're a little squeamish, if you're obviously, if you don't, they say not safe for work, but I don't know. That depends. Like there's no boobs or anything that show up in the thing that I remember, but there's definitely a lot of blood and things like of that nature that happen. But if you're don't care about Mortal Kombat, you don't care about watching this in the first place. So next up though. So, because I know you said you don't really care that much about this movie. Is that
Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, like you're not really.
I'm not. I was never that much into the game, to be honest.
Right.
I was a Street Fighter guy.
Sure, same.
So the movies never really, had any appeal to me, and I knew that. I mean, I made the mistake of watching the Street Fighter movie.
Yeah,
live action Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
We did a rewatch of that. Not us as an Agent 75, but me and some folks online did that as of a couple of months ago. I'm like, yeah, it's still funny and still doesn't hold up. But yeah,
I mean, the only positive was Ming-Na Wen as Chun-Li.
Oh, totally.
So other than that,
Yeah, it was straight cheese. And I was matter of fact, we were watching this trailer. That was like, yep, time for a rewatch of the both of the movies, Mortal Kombat movies. Which the first one, in my opinion, is better than the second. But neither one of them were like great. They were just campy and cheesy.
Gotcha.
Next up, from the Fast and Furious corner, because you know we gotta go here every now and then. The Fast Saga may possibly bring back another franchise alum, which I think we may have joked about in the past. So apparently, yeah, apparently they, if the last trailer that we talked about, last week or two, whatever it was, we see a shot of Twinkie played by Bow Wow, who seemed to be sitting at a backyard table with Dom and the rest of the crew in what is likely yet another barbecue. There is also someone who looks like him alongside Han and a bearded Sean, indicating the Japanese crew is back in full swing. So yeah, so apparently the Tokyo Drift crew, which I'm surprised they haven't brought back in properly before now, but probably didn't necessarily need to.
Well, I was about to say they used film clips of Bow Wow.
Well, yeah, but
and they brought back Sean.
Oh, he did come back for like a split second.
Right. He came back just for like a brief scene with Dom in that parking lot after they do the drifting in the parking lot.
Right.
So, but yeah, this might be more of a full-fledged appearance as opposed to that brief cameo.
And shout out to the PSP Bow Wow's holding. I don't know if that was from Tokyo Drift? Because I doubt if they would have one at this point. Anyway, that doesn't matter. That's something for me to decipher. But yeah, so Fast 9 is coming. Fast and Furious. Film will be here May 28th. I'm sorry, I had to make that dumbass joke. Still no Gazelle, but we know Gal Gadot's doing bigger and better things. So unless they happen to surprise her at the end of this also.
Right.
Because Han's back, and we need to put them two crazy kids back together again.
Right, because apparently nobody really dies in the Fast and Furious.
It would seem.
As long as it was in the movie,
Right. If they show the body, then clearly, yeah, they're dead. But the people that ain't show the body should probably still be around, which they didn't show Gazelle's body. Boom.
Nope.
Next up.
Nope. So next up, Aladdin's Jafar actor, the live action, joins Black Adam in a mystery role. Marwan Kenzari has been picked to play a mystery role in the upcoming DC Extended Universe film. This is reported by The Hollywood Reporter. Kenzari's role, as I said, is being kept under wraps.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess. I still have yet to see that Shazam movie. Next up, though, HBO Max reportedly casting people of color, BIPOC, as the acronym goes, Constantine for a new series. So basically, could possibly get a black and or a not white Constantine for whatever this new show is going to be. And it says it's reportedly on the horizon for HBO Max, as I said about the other stuff, and this is coming from some probably gossip site. I don't know what this Illuminati place is, but whatever. They're partnering with J.J. Abrams' studio Bad Robot on a Constantine show. This incarnation of the character will have a dark tone and heavy emphasis on horror rather than religious elements. Notably, the show is currently looking to secure a BIPOC performer in the mold of Riz Ahmed to take on the part of John Constantine. So we'll see how that goes. I'm still weirdly like Matt Ryan did actually a pretty good job. This is one of the few times I would say that. And I don't care. It doesn't really matter which way they kind of go with this Constantine show. But that other Constantine show that not HBO, NBC had on was actually not bad. And I wish they would continue. If they do anything, they continue on that front, but I doubt they will. Whoever they go with. Next up,
Teen Titans Go, the animated series, is getting a new spin-off, bringing the young heroes back to the musical world of Night Begins to Shine. Cartoon Network and HBO Max announced that the hit animated series Teen Titans Go will get a new spin-off series The show will see the 5 teen heroes travel back to Night Begins to Shine, a music-filled land featured during the original series' run.
Mm-hmm.
A teaser of the upcoming animated collaborations between the two Warner Media companies offers a sneak peek at the show. Okay.
The night begins to shine. Yeah, that was. I remember. I actually remember that. I think it was a 5-episode show, but I do remember it was very least seeing 1 or 2. It was the Dark Knight's Metal before Dark Knight's Metal, I dare say.
Okay.
Except for it's Teen Titans Go. So there you go. Next up, though, John Wesley Shipp to guest star on DC's Stargirl as the Golden Age Flash. So Jay Garrick is going to star on or guest star on Supergirl. Oh, Supergirl. Excuse me, Stargirl. Sorry. As we know, John Wesley Shipp is the original Flash from the 90s, who has also shown up prominently on the Flash TV show, and I guess they're still doing the crossing over thing within whatever universes. But it says here, Entertainment Weekly has exclusively learned that John Wesley Shipp will guest star in season 2 of the CW's high school superhero drama. Shipp will appear in episode 9, reprising his role as old school speedster Jay Garrick from The Flash, like I said. According to the official description, Jay Garrick plays a quote-unquote role in the pivotal flashback episode that established the Golden Age Flash as a member of Earth 2's Justice Society of America. Per the CW, this miniature crossover will, quote-unquote, officially bring Stargirl Brett Bessinger into CW's post-crisis CW verse, along with every other show that they have. Y'all know the Arrowverse shows by now. So they call it the CW verse. I'm still calling it the Arrowverse show. Screw all of that. So yeah, that's cool. I have not caught up on. I actually have not seen any of Stargirl. And I've not caught up on the rest of the Arrowverse shows. So I know that was also another thing that I said I was going to do. But that's a lot.
Roddykat has a long list.
That is a long list and a short memory. So there you go. Next up,
Snoopy series showrunner reveals Peanuts universe rules. The showrunner of Apple TV Plus's new The Snoopy Show revealed that there are rules for how the Peanuts universe works and what those rules are. So, Collider came out with a new interview with Snoopy Show showrunner Mark Eve Staff, in which the writer/executive producer reveals some of the rules show creators must follow within the Peanuts cinematic universe, and it all goes back to the original comic strip. I'm just going to give the first rule because there's a couple.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain rules and certain things that Charles Schulz had when he was doing a strip. Eve Staff said one of the rules is that when Snoopy is in his fantasies, you can't see the bottom of the doghouse because of the idea that Snoopy doesn't actually go anywhere. That's a challenge, but also a nice idea to carry through, and we've certainly been faithful to that. That's pretty cool. That there's conceptual and philosophical things that they have to stick to.
Yeah, yeah. When I saw the article, I was like, yeah, that is actually pretty cool. And I was like, I would love to see. Like, I know they had put out like a Batman animated series like show Bible a long time ago that I think we still have somewhere.
Yes, we do have it.
Yeah, and I think I've seen it in there, and I kind of like seeing stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to know that they kind of had something similar for the Peanuts gang. Next up, though, Underworld star and Underworld co-creator and star Kevin Grievo, also comic writer in his own right, is developing a film adaptation of the upcoming Assassin's War graphic novel King of Killers. So Grievo, who starred in Underworld, which I don't remember him being in that. But then again, I don't think I've seen enough of Underworld to even know one way or the other. So anyway, started in Underworld as the werewolf Raze, and also created Blue Marvel for Marvel Comics, which is how I know him. Who will write the screenplay and direct the story, which focuses on the hitman who has no choice but to enlist in a $10 million competition for the world's elite assassins in Tokyo in order to save his daughter's life. Sounds slightly familiar? Sure, but hey, we may give it a chance. We don't even know. Alan Musi from Kickboxer and Jiu-Jitsu is tapped to star and admitted that he's hyped for the project. Quote unquote, Kevin has a brilliant vision for the action and visual style of King of Killers, and the first class King of Killers team is passionate about bringing that vision to life, he said. So, cool. And there's some other people apparently they got cast in here, but obviously things are being held because of COVID. They're shooting in COVID. I mean, they're shooting in Tokyo since the COVID pandemic has begun, since their rules are a little more strict than what has been here in the States. Next up.
Oh, we're going to transition
Oh, yes.
over to the comic book news.
Yeah, do it.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
ReedPop Prez lays out plans for PAX Comic-Con events for 2021. So ReedPop President Lance Finsterman laid out the company's plans for 2021 events, including schedules for PAX and comic conventions in a post on LinkedIn. That's where you go for that stuff. His post addressed some of the lessons learned from the challenges ReedPop faced in 2020 and how online components will play a new role in how conventions are run in the future. Shout out to all my folks going to BlurCon, which I won't be able to go, and I'm be mad because I'm missing out, but that's fine. Finsterman commented, I'm not bitter at all. Finsterman commented on some of the most difficult moments of the COVID-19 pandemic for ReedPop, which we probably won't go into the whole thing, but we'll definitely skip to the part where he says that there are live events on the schedule that he posted for June and beyond, going to December, and those of which being the PAX stuff, Crunchyrolls, Exam, SuperCon, New York Comic Con, and Emerald City, and C2E2. So it sounds like, because I know I just saw, I think it's the next article we're talking about, because I know San Diego. Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and get into that. So go ahead and hit that one.
So San Diego Comic-Con has canceled in-person WonderCon for 2021, but plans for an in-person Comic-Con International San Diego are still underway. So, they had hoped by now that COVID-19 might have subsided enough so that we could go, that people could come together in person for a traditional WonderCon event, but unfortunately not. WonderCon 2021 is now going to be an online convention like last year, scheduled to take place March 26th and 27th. Yeah, that's a shame, but yeah, March is obviously a little too soon.
Yep.
For anything possibly coming to fruition as a live in-person event.
Yep. So yeah, and some of those from that, going back to that last article, some of those conventions at this point are still purported to be on track to when some of the ones later in the year obviously are purported to still continue as they are.
Right. San Diego is actually is scheduled for July 21st to July 25th. Obviously, the facility still remains in use as for COVID-19 patients, but they're currently scheduled to resume public convention events at the end of April. So we will see how this all plays out. We just have to be very patient with the convention schedule this year.
And for God's sake, wear your goddamn mask and don't go nowhere if you ain't got to. Jesus Christ, people. Toph goes solo in new Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novel.
I was about to say, I'm part of the choir on this one. So.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
I'm part of the choir. I double mask and don't go to many places. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Same here. So you've got sense, and there are people with sense out there, just not enough to kind of help things along, apparently. But yeah, Toph goes solo in new Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novel, which actually came out this week, and I didn't get a chance to check out. And I don't think we actually had it in the first place. Now that I think about it, and I shouldn't be showing that. But yeah, so Faith Erin Hicks, it says here, return to the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender in another in-continuity comic book adventure this month, this time focusing on Toph and her Metalbang Academy. None of this is known to Agent 70, which I hope he ends up watching at some point, because I really would like to know what he thinks about Avatar. No pressure. And I know he also has a long anime list to go through, which is technically is not this. But following up from the last from Avatar: Last Airbender, Katara and the Pirate Silver, writer Faith Erin Hicks and artist Peter Wortman are back here with the aforementioned Toph Beifong's Metal Bending Academy. In this new OGN, Toph is bored by the day-to-day routine of teaching and is looking forward to more adventures, which leads her to an underground bending fight ring, which fans of Avatar would know that I think that's how we came across her. I love Toph, so I would probably check this out if we got a copy of it, or maybe even get a copy. I don't even know, but Toph is pretty much one of my favorite characters in Avatar, so that is cool. And I think the rest of the article is an interview with Faith Erin Hicks. So check that out at your leisure in the show notes, if you so please. Next
up, Star Trek's new browser game will let you fail the Kobayashi Maru test as many times as you want. And it's supposed to be, and you're probably going to fail a lot. CBS has announced a partnership with Scopely, who already make the Star Trek Fleet Command game for mobile platforms, to release Star Trek Kobayashi Maru, a retro-stylized decision-making game that puts you in the hot seat as a Starfleet cadet preparing to take the Academy's most infamous command track test, the Kobayashi Maru. In Star Trek lore, as you all should know, the quote, no-win scenario, unquote, test sees cadets commanding a Starfleet vessel as it comes across a distress signal from the Kobayashi Maru, a damaged civilian freighter that finds itself adrift in Klingon territory. It's meant to humble potential captains with the idea that not every situation they will encounter aboard a Starfleet vessel has a positive outcome, that sometimes hard decisions will be made and lives lost because there is no magically right answer. That is, unless you're James Tiberius Kirk, and the magically right answer is to hack the test program and cheat your way to victory in protest.
I've read magically as cheated, but yes. So one thing to note about this thing is that I tried to try this thing out, but you apparently have to log into Facebook to once you get to the page. In fact, here, I can bring up the page. No, I cannot. I'm sorry. Wait, where the heck is it? Oh, for criminy sake. There's a link to it in the thing. It doesn't really matter. But it's a good looking page. Oh, here it is. So yeah, you can continue, but you got to log into Facebook. And that's not going to happen, friends. So go for it yourself. If you actually win the Kobayashi, if you go through the Kobayashi Maru and win it, I believe there's actually a prize. This thing says of like a lifetime subscription to CBS All Access, which is about to become Paramount Plus. So if that's worth it to you, go for it. Next up, though, yeah, no, I saw that. I was like, yeah, that's kind of neat, but I mean, is it worth it? But Hasbro discontinues the Mandalorian's Cara Dune action figures. 8 to 70, always with the timely audio cues. Appreciate that. So Hasbro has announced that they have no plans to make more Cara Dune figures for the Mandalorian, which means the ones that are out there are collector's items and probably going up for eBay to some idiot for high bids. Well, actually, something I know I think I've seen some comic writer of said they pretty much after this article came out was like, yeah, I bought mine when in better days when the character was cool. So, but as folks know at this point, Gina Carano got fired, thankfully, from the Disney's Mandalorian, and probably will never see any Lucasfilm work ever again. And great. So, yeah, there you go. That's that. Next up.
Next up, so apparently there's a interesting Mr. Negative detail in the Miles Morales video game. Reddit user that pointed out something interesting about the game's villain, Mr. Negative, that seems to have gone unnoticed until now. Basically, when Martin Lee takes his villainous form and becomes Mr. Negative, his reflection is still that of the regular Martin Lee, with players still waiting on news of the Spider-Man 2 game, the chance to see Martin Lee's reflection and decide whether it's a purposeful detail for themselves might convince some to take the first Spider-Man game out for another swing.
I still
Or
need
it
to
just
finish
could be
it.
a glitch. So, I leave it for you to decide, video gamers.
It's probably not. This is not the first time they've done a reflection thing, because they famously did. Well, I say famously, but they did put a basically a memorial to the Twin Towers in the game, and a reflection off one of the buildings, which was weird to see, but also kind of cool. So like I said, no, they've done something similar to that in the past, but in this, who knows if it's a glitch or not. I kind of doubt it. Predator hunts Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and more in May variant covers. So we all know that Aliens and Predator are now licensed under Marvel. So here's one of the first parting shots in the form of variant covers from various comics. We have Amazing Spider-Man here. I'm showing the covers that we have. Let's see. Actually, wait, we're showing one of the covers because I don't see where the. Oh, here we go. Slideshow, folks. Fantastic Four, Spider-Woman, which was shown above, the Mighty Valkyrie, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Miles Morales Spider-Man. All have covers with the Predator on the cover in some way, shape, or fashion. There you go. Next
up, teaser art for the Fantastic Four's 60th anniversary features a surprise wedding for antagonist Dr. Doom later in the year, with Reed Richards as Doom's best man. The future of the Fantastic Four begins in May 2021, reads the tagline at the bottom of the teaser art by Valerio Schiti and Marte Gracia. The identity of the woman Dr. Doom is marrying is hidden under a veil, as Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, Thing, Alicia, Namor, and Black Panther stand in the background observing the festivities. I got a kick out of seeing this. I kind of laughed.
Right.
I was just like, that's just funny.
Mm-hmm. I think, I don't know if wait. Other token from this. Yeah, so shout out to Tim for this. But I was thinking that's Victorious. But it says, according to what Tim says here, other takeaways from the teaser art include King of the Conqueror and Scarlet Centurion, the new threat Cormorant. Victorious is in here somewhere that I don't. Oh yeah, she does show up right there, but that still doesn't necessarily mean that it could be her.
Right.
But because the Thing is in also one of the the Thing is in two different places. So. Mm-hmm. In this teaser art, and Black Panther's there, and Namor is there. Obviously, being the head of state, there's things they have. But yeah, I'm still on the fence. I'm still saying that's probably Victorious. He's going to matter because especially with the stuff that happened. Did you finish Doctor Doom?
I did.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. I can't imagine who else it would be at this point.
Shout out to @TimDog98 for this article.
Yeah, indeed. Next up, though.
That's funny.
Yeah. Black Widow gets a new costume, a new mission. We didn't necessarily talk about this part when we talked about Black Widow number 5.
We left this part out because this was like at the very end, and I don't think we wanted to spoil it.
Right, but we'll just basically say that. Well, we've already pretty much said that. We know that the series is going to keep going, and we did mention the fact that there's going to be a new arc. And what we neglected to mention that at the end of that issue, that she is seen in a new suit, and seemingly has a new mission that she's going to embark on, which we do not know what it is at this point, but we'll find out shortly. So there you go. Next.
Despite an absence from Marvel's April 2021 solicitations, the publisher's X-Men and X-Factor titles will definitively return in May. Marvel is now showing off the covers of both issues, each of which hint at potential big developments as Marvel's X-Men line continues into the post-X of Swords Reign of X era. Okay.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sometimes because sometimes we look at the solicits, which we did mention this earlier, but May's 2021 solicits are out for various companies, including Marvel and DC, and I believe Image or IDW. One of them is, but it's in the show notes. One of the ones that we got on hand, and whatever I think I did last week, which may be a double dip on one of them. So some of the stuff ends up coming from there. New X-Men's Lost Future is even darker than Powers of X. So, let's see, the X-Men have encountered numerous potential futures over the years, and many of them taking the Marvel Universe into strange, dark directions. One of the most striking, though, only appeared for a few issues before the power of the Phoenix Force reversed it, but it does have some similarities with one of the most recent dark timelines glimpsed by the X-Men. And apparently this article is taking a look at the storyline called Here Comes Tomorrow from New X-Men 151 to 154 by Grant Morrison, Mark Silvestri, Joe Weems, and other folks. And how this world could be seen as a dark portent of the futures revealed in Jonathan Hickman's Pepper Larraz, Marta Gracia, and Clayton Cowles' Powers of X. I am not aware of this, but the article kind of goes into what the crux of Here Comes Tomorrow is, and I won't go into this, but apparently a character that I know from X-Men Origins Wolverine shows up, which that's a weird way to do that, but nevertheless, whatever. There you go, folks. That's there. You can read that in show notes. Next up.
Alrighty, next up, Marvel Comics bills Reptile as its next biggest hero. Okay.
Oh wait.
Marvel is what? Did I skip one?
No, I might not have. I might have. Oh no, did I reverse that? You keep going. If you did skip it, then I'll get to the next one.
No, I was about to say you did Lost Future is even darker, right?
Yes, but I think
so the next one I have is Marvel Comics bills Reptile. Unless
I know, but no, but I have. I think I might have missed that one when I did the thing. So keep going. You're good.
All right, Marvel Comics bills Reptile as its next biggest hero. Marvel's positioning the young Mexican-American superhero who can turn into dinosaurs as its next star. He is a former Avengers Academy student, and Marvel plans to bring him to prominence in May in his first solo limited series, with the publisher billing the dinosaur shapeshifter, as I said, as its next biggest hero. Writer Terry Blas of Hotel Dare and Dead Weight Murder at Camp Bloom will make his Marvel Comics debut on the 4-issue limited series alongside artist Enid Balam of Omni, and will explore Reptile's secret past as well as his exciting future, and will celebrate his Mexican-American heritage. In the wake of Kamala's Law and his grandfather's worsening health, Humberto Lopez, aka Reptile, has taken a step back from crime fighting to refocus on his family, reads Marvel's official announcement of Reptile number 1. Okay.
Sure. I wasn't fully aware of who this was. I thought this was Mutant first. It's not. Then I thought it was an Inhuman. It is not. And apparently this person got their powers from other means. So.
Magic.
Yes. So there you go. Next up, though, news that both Agent 70 and I have, well, one we knew about, but still excited about. Shang-Chi fights the Marvel Universe before his movie debut. So basically, Shang-Chi is going to get an ongoing series, which we've talked about in the past, the potential of. So, let's see. Following last year's limited series that focused on Masters, what was it? It wasn't last year. It was this year. Wait, regardless, anyway.
No, I was about to say, it. If I'm not mistaken, didn't it start at, in 2020 and finish up in 2021?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's still the crux of this year, because I think it, like, late last year's when it started, like the anyway, I mean, it's semantics, it doesn't matter, like
no,
it just
I was about to say, I'm like we're only in February, dude.
I mean, look, this has been a long year already, all right? You know this. I know this.
February 18th going into the 19th, and we're talking about literally semantics, like this is last year. Well, technically it was last year.
I mean, look, it's been a long year. Time is a construct. Don't do this. Don't do this. Regardless, it just ended. Regardless, but yeah. So we talked about the slight low at last week or whatever it was. But regardless, there's going to be a new series simply titled Shang-Chi, focuses on an eponymous hero's quest to turn the sometimes villainous five-weapon society into heroes, and it will put him at odds with the larger Marvel universe. Quote unquote, after the events of his latest series, Shang-Chi has finally taken his place as the leader of the five-weapon society, but using an evil secret organization as a force for good won't be easy. We know that from when Bobby DaCosta took over AIM. Just saying, similarities. Reads the Marvel's official description of the new Shang-Chi title. Do we have a creative team?
I think they're reuniting DK Ruan
And Jean Lewin? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You're correct. You are correct. I didn't see that. I was above and not below. And it looks like, let's see, it's going to come out May 19th, the first issue of this. So, and it's, as this article says, it is just ahead of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings movie, which is still scheduled for July 9th at this point. So cool. And we were fans of that, the series. So I'm glad. And like I said, we knew the possibility of this happening. But you never know with comics these days. So it's good for the competition.
We see it, one of those types of things.
I believe we actually said those extra words.
So
next up,
that's what it comes down to. All right, next up, meet the original Hulk in a Marvel May special. So step aside, Bruce Banner, and meet the original Hulk, quote unquote. You may think that Bruce was the original first Hulk, but now Marvel Comics has revealed there was another. In May 19th, Immortal Hulk, Time of Monsters, the flashback story to 8000 BC, reveals a young boy who becomes the Hulk, a character Marvel is calling the original Hulk. 10,000 years ago, something green and glowing comes to poison the ancient ground of the Fertile Crescent and the hearts of its people, reads Marvel's description of this one-shot from the May 2021 solicitations. One boy is left to bear the consequences and for the first time to open the green door. And this is touching upon a concept that was introduced in The Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing. What's interesting about this one-shot is that it's written by Alex Packnadel, but it's co-plotted with Al Ewing. Art by Juan Ferreira. So that Al Ewing had some input into this concept. So I'm curious about whether or not I want to pull this, because I'm interested in pulling Immortal Hulk stuff that Al Ewing has a hand in.
Which he did.
What's that?
Which technically he does, because obviously, him being the shepherd over the Immortal Hulk stuff, like, yeah, he's probably plotted out some things and letting the writer go fill in the blanks or whatever the case may be.
Right, or at least giving them the boundaries that they can play in, because I wondered that about this week's Immortal Hulk Flatline one shot that's written and drawn by Declan Shalvey, who's an excellent creative person.
Yes,
but I'm not sure if I've read it. I'm not so sure it's required reading for people who are fans of the Immortal Hulk.
Right,
but we'll see if this one becomes more important.
And there's been a lot of stuff. There's been a couple of side things that we can possibly fit in that category. I would also probably put Maestro in that category, which has nothing to do, not necessarily nothing directly to do with Immortal Hulk. I'm just saying, some side stuff.
Oh, you mean in possible relation to?
Right.
Yeah, I read that more as a direct continuation of Hulk Future Imperfect, which Roddykat probably still hasn't read.
That is correct.
Long list.
Yeah, it's 2 issues. That's a lot of pages. I'm just kidding. Worth noting though, from this other one shot that we were talking about initially, that it's a 40-page one shot, and it will come up with a backup story, by new Marvel writer David Vaughn and an unannounced artist. And apparently, Bruce Banner faces a challenge unlike any he's seen before in their story. So we'll see. We'll let you know how that is when we get to that point. Next up, though, Def Jam and Marvel team for special Black Panther stories leading to the series finale. Def Jam Recordings and Marvel Comics announced an upcoming collaboration designed to, quote, integrate the voices of young black creatives with one of the most transformative characters and storylines in graphic arts history, Black Panther, end quote. In February 24's Black Panther 23, Marvel and Def Jam celebrate Black History Month with South Central Los Angeles singer-songwriter Saint Bodie.
I'm sorry?
I don't know. I was waiting for a who there. Saint Bodie. I don't know who that is. But
an LA singer songwriter Saint. Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm
I'll throw the Who in. I mean, I thought maybe you might. I thought maybe you were like kind of teasing that you knew who this person was.
I have no clue. Yeah, I have no clue. I feel like I've seen that name somewhere before, but I couldn't tell you in what context or what they did. You know, but they are joined by co-writer Danny Lore, artist Aletha Martinez, and colorist Rachel Rosenberg, sharing her take on Storm for, quote-unquote, an emotional story grounded in tragedy and acceptance. Bodie's debut story will also be included in Marvel Legacy #1, a celebration of Black voices and artists on sale the same day. Which part of me thought it came out this week, the way I heard people talking about it, but cool. In March's Black Panther 24, Dallas native rapper Bobby Sessions, I have no idea who that is either, tells a story about Black Panther himself. And in the series finale, issue 25, in April, Toxic R&B artist, this is the writer's words, Cash Page will forge a tale about Wakandan Princess Shuri and the power of knowledge. About Shuri and the power of knowledge. I don't know who any of these people are, but apparently you can write, again, you can write for Marvel if you know. Yeah. I know. He's saying it again, folks. Why you keep going on that, Roddy? Don't worry about it. Keep going. Anyway, I'm still going to read it. I don't know. Wait, now, so I don't know if it says it's like, oh, these are the full stories, or because it's basically Ta-Nehisi's coach just not writing anything on these ones, according to this. So basically, the last 3 issues of Black Panther will not even be written by him, which kind of sucks. Unless there's going to be another episode or one after that, because I think they did say it was going to end in 25. I don't remember.
It ends at 25. I mean, I don't know if this article says that these are supposed to be backup stories or not.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was looking for, and I think it says
special stories in the last 3 issues. I don't think they would take up the entire book with these.
I would be highly upset if that were the case.
You know, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
Because you can, you know, and obviously the article isn't conclusive with this regard, but it says in the series finale, Toxic R&B artist Cash Page will forge a tale about Wakandan Princess Shuri and the power of knowledge. You would think that Coates is going to have the primary story.
Right, like that's going to be that's going to be a bigger issue than just that has that story in it. Yeah, that's what I would like to believe.
You know what I was about to say? You know what you need to see? It actually confirms it without being explicit, but it seems to say that image that's right in the middle. It says a 3-month short story special celebrating.
Okay.
So
sure.
I think it's implied that they're backups.
Right. Sure.
I mean, in our parlance, it's backup story.
That makes sense. Yeah, like I said, before seeing that, I was like, well, wait a minute, because this article up until then wasn't necessarily saying that much about that.
Right.
Up until you see that. So probably if I had read a little bit more onto that part.
I just think it's funny that in our parlance, they would be backup stories, but they want to be as generous as possible with these new comic book creators, so they call them short stories.
Right. So I guess good on them, though. So we'll see how good those things are when they come about. Next up.
All right. Marvel skips a bunch of titles in May. I saw this, I noticed this, and I think Roddykat and I were talking about this even before I just skimmed this article, because Marvel has a lot planned in May 2021 from the solicitations, but there's also several conspicuous absences from The list, several key ongoing monthly titles, including Captain America, Thor, Excalibur, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Savage, Avengers, and Avengers have no issues planned for the month of May. We can presume that the absence of a May Avengers issue might be because of the Heroes Reborn event, which is obviously spinning out of the Avengers series. The absence of the other titles raises some questions, especially when other titles overlapping with Heroes Reborn, such as Amazing Spidey, are continuing in May unabated. That said, Iron Man writer Christopher Cantwell states on Twitter that the reason for the Avengers titles' absence, including Iron Man, are indeed due to the advent of Heroes Reborn, which may mean the titles could also be absent in June as Heroes Reborn 2021 continues. And of course, that doesn't account for Excalibur being
Yes.
absent from the schedule. So, we'll just keep our ears to the ground and figure out and let you know if there's any more news on this, folks.
But also of note, Amazing Spider-Man, it says that is going to continue unabated. And we do know that Peter Parker is going to be a part of Heroes Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also weird. But, and that's kind of going like it is. And also Savage Avengers still around for some reason. The book that will never die.
Savage Avengers.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like don't get me wrong, I have been enjoying that book. It's a fun book, but I'm like, it's okay. We thought it was gonna end so whatever, it'll be here until it's not.
I'm thinking about adding Heroes Reborn to my pull list, and maybe I'm gonna get the Mark Bernardin book, the Peter Parker the Amazing Shutterbug, because it's a one shot.
Right. I'm going to check out this stuff, and part of me, I think we've talked about this at the end of the last show, or at least one show previously about the stuff. I'm debating about going back and revisiting Heroes Reborn, and I do not want to do that.
I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, I didn't like it when it first came out.
I feel like I read through, I think, the FF stuff because Jim Lee was doing the art. I stayed away from Cap and the Avengers like the plague because that was Liefeld's field. For a while, and I know that some of the Wildstorm guys started to take up the slack on that because, of course, Liefeld couldn't keep up with it, and his studio couldn't keep up with it. What was the other book? It was FF and
Thor. Wait, are you talking about that's
that was in Heroes Reborn.
Oh,
Original Heroes Reborn. That
I don't remember. Was it Thor? Was it Cap, Thor, Iron Man?
Cap, FF, and
was it Iron Man? Was Iron Man? Did Iron Man have a book then?
Iron Man. It was Iron Man.
Yeah,
You're correct. It was Iron Man.
Yeah,
you're correct. It was Iron Man. So those are the four main books that got shunted over to the former Image companies to work on. So yeah, it was Iron Man. Because Portasio had Iron Man.
Oh, okay.
Whilst Portasio had Iron Man, I remember that. So.
But yeah, like I said, I'm debating it whether it's going to happen before this event happens, and where I go from. I will definitely be checking it out on the show in some way, shape, or form. So stay tuned for that. The new one.
I mean, it's easy enough for us because of our review copies to keep up with the main series. So
at the very least,
I will just be very curious to see if I'm going to be picking up any of these one shots at all.
Right.
So.
Like I'm debating about the Champions one.
Yeah, that seems interesting.
Yeah, and like you said, the Peter Parker one also, because I'm very kind of curious as how Jimmy Olsen they're going to get with that, if at all. So, yeah, but we'll see.
It's interesting that the amazing issue that they cite in this article, number 65, is just going to go on without any mind to Heroes Reborn.
Right. Which
just continuing its regular story.
Right. Which again, like we have stuff going on right now that hadn't been touched by King in Black. So that's not outside the realm of possibility. I mean, of things that could happen. But I'm sure there's also going to at some point touch.
Right. I was about to say, I don't know if you have a story about this, but apparently the Spencer story involving Boomerang and Kingpin stuff is going to come to a head. There's going to be a one-shot special in May also.
Oh, no, I don't have that, actually. Huh. I'll pull it for next week if it's
Well,
put in
yeah,
there.
I was about to say if there's an article on it, but there's definitely a book in the May solicitations
Mhm.
that teases that they're going to kind of resolve. And I guess the solicitations for, because there's 2 issues of Amazing that month. I guess it's still going by month, bi-weekly, that is.
Okay, right.
So there's 2 issues in May, and I guess we're finally going to get a resolution to what's going on between Boomerang, Spidey, and the Kingpin.
Word. All right. Is this me, right? Yeah, because you just
Yeah.
said that. Untold Boba Fett and Han Solo story explored in new Marvel Comics Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters.
I was about to say, did you skip this Yahoo story?
Did I skip
The
that? Yeah,
newspaper
I
profile?
sure did. Yeah, because that's right. Because I pulled that
I
other
was about to say,
one.
I was going to say, just talk about the Boba Fett, and I'll cover this newspaper one.
All right, bet. Boba Fett didn't take Han Solo's frozen in carbonite body.
I was about to say you did a Lando just now.
Yeah, I know. Because that's kind of funny because I have to correct myself sometimes when I do that. Like, God damn it, something.
That Colt 45.
I know, right?
I heard you slip and then go with the regular pronunciation that most people use. I laughed when I heard it.
Because weirdly enough, even reading reading issues of which, granted, they haven't really had that much interaction in the comics recently. You know, at least not directly, a little bit, but I still do that even when I read it in my head. So it's kind of crazy. But let's see. Boba Fett didn't take Han's frozen in carbonite body directly from Cloud City on Bespin to Jabba the Hutt's palace on Tatooine. And for the first time, Marvel Comics will tell the story of what he did do in the War of the Bounty Hunters, a 6-month crossover event in its Star Wars comic book line. Which, as a reminder, yes, it is canon. Quote unquote, something had to happen in between that intervening time between Empire and Jedi, and I was like, I would like to tell that story, and I was like, wait, hold on a second, because now I'm sitting here tripping. Did Han actually? Because this is after Empire, which means he's already frozen in carbonite. But I feel like I have seen Han in the pages of Star Wars, which is also taking place at, you know what? I'll research that later. I'm not worried about that right now. But I was like, wait, I'm tripping. Anyway, so there's going to be a crossover event in the Star Wars comic books later. They've done that before. Let's see. Something had to happen in between intervening times between Empire and Jedi, and I was like, I would like to tell that story. And I would like it to be about Boba Fett and what happens to him, explains writer Charles Soule in an official announcement. The series in this crossover issue will reveal what Fett experienced on his journey to deliver Solo, which I can't imagine that being much to it, but okay, sure. Debuting in May and running through October, this storyline kicks off with the War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha by Soule and artist Steve McNiffen on May 5th. Then spins out into the Marvel's post-Star Wars Empire Strikes Back line, including Star Wars Bounty Hunters, Darth Vader, and Dr. Aphra, which I did not know. Again, Bounty Hunters is an ongoing, because I could have sworn that also was a miniseries. And I was wondering why that was still going after the initial 5 that I thought it was. So go figure. Anyway, the 5-issue War of the Bounty Hunters limited series from Soule and artist Luke Ross. The anchor of the series event begins in June. So there you go. Another crossover in the Star Wars line of books, folks. And yes, you know I will be reading it. Next up,
this is a read this article. It's posted by Yahoo Life, but it's really about the newspaper profile that killed Marvel's mightiest team up. It's really what it really boils down to is a news piece and a bit of a plug for a book called True Believer: The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee, written by Abraham Reisman and over at Slate, there is an excerpt from Reisman's book, which details the comparatively small newspaper profile of Lee and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby that proved to be the final straw for Jack Kirby in his long partnership and working at Marvel. I would say that you should check out. It's a minor plug for the Word Balloon podcast with John Suntress. Reisman was on this podcast earlier this week, or at least very recently, to plug the book, and I listened to his interview. Actually, no, I don't think it was. I might be mistaken. I think it was a different podcast. I apologize, folks. I don't think it was Word Balloon. Give me a moment and let me confirm this, because I feel bad about disseminating incorrect information to you guys. I know you rely on us to be on point with the facts and the news that we give out during the news section. I believe it was, yes, I apologize. It was Off Panel Comics Interview podcast. And you should check that out. It is the most recent episode. I listened to this, and Reisman has some interesting things to say about this biography of Stan Lee. And that's that. You're on mute.
Also, worth noting is that I put another article about that book in the clickbait section, which I'll just flash here on the screen. From the Hollywood Reporter about the True Believer, The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee book by Abraham Reisman, as said. So you can check out all that stuff we said. And if you have a link to that podcast, put it over to me, and I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Will do.
That being said, now I think we're back on track. With we're here, we're there, we're there, we're there. Nope, we're still off. What the hell? Oh, that's right, because I did. Yeah. So, wait.
Yeah, I was about to say, you just have RIP.
Yeah, but did we wait? Because we did talk about. Why do I still have this up? We did talk about they skipped that. So why do I still have that up? Rip Vertigo and 2000 AD writer Cy Spencer. So when I first saw this, I thought it was Cy Spurrier, who's a writer for Marvel, and I think DC, and wherever. He's a comic writer. So I thought it was him. I was like, oh shit, no, I didn't know he wrote for Vertigo in 2000 AD. Nope, that's not him. It's not that person. Numerous reports confirm that prolific English writer Cy Spencer has passed away. The cause of death is not known. Spencer was best known in the U.S. for work at Vertigo, including Books of Magic, Life During Wartime, Bodies, The Vinyl Underground, Hellblazer, and more. For 2000 AD, his work includes Hark and Burr, The Creep, and The Returners, all for Judge Dredd magazine. He also worked in television, such as BBC, for shows as The EastEnders, The Bill, and Grange Hill, which a lot of people of a certain note probably know The EastEnders the most out of those, but probably know those also. The 2000 AD blog has a full obituary for Cy Spencer with some quotes that show his thoughts on his work. So rest in peace and condolences to his family and friends. Next.
All right, DC has revealed when fans of Milestone Comics will get to read the new adventures of their favorite superheroes like Static Shock, or Static, Icon, Rocket, not Raccoon, and Hardware. Milestone Mondays is a new digital publishing initiative kicking off the first wave of Milestone Digital First miniseries in April. Before that begins, Milestone Returns Infinite Edition number 0 will be released digitally on February 26th with an extended cut of the Milestone Returns one-shot. Okay.
It is worth noting, well, I know of, and a lot of people are, there are fans of the Milestone comics, obviously, and some folks may know this. I know of them, and obviously know of them from other media. That being TV more than the actual comics. I don't think I've read too much of any of the comics, but I know I know them from TV more so than not. That being said, Comixology and probably other places have been reprinting older Milestone books. I don't know if they're going to do like a collected works also, but they have been pretty much going issue by issue with some of the stuff in the past month or so. So, you can definitely check that out if you are so inclined ahead of the new stuff. And I kind of want to check out some of the old stuff because, like I said, I didn't really get a chance. I think I even have some of the old stuff, but I just hadn't read them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that stuff is out there if you are unfamiliar and want to get familiar if you are not already. So this is cool. Next up, though, Teen Lantern's new power partner is a powerful DC icon. And this is spoilers for, I guess, the story Dead Space from Future State Green Lantern number 2, which I still haven't read yet. I think it's a backup story. Or one of them. The Green Lanterns of Future State have been brought down, leaving the universe more or less defendant. And as far as I know, unless that issue goes into it, we still don't know why that happened. But 2 of them secretly have survived thanks to each other. Actually, more have survived. And whatever. Anyway. Thanks to each other and might be able to survive until help arrives. In Future State Green Lantern number 2, Teen Lantern is one of the many Green Lanterns stranded across the Future State's timeline. But she's got one powerful ally still with her, Mogo. It's a Green Lantern planet and a battery, if I'm not mistaken.
What's that?
Mogo, do you know?
He's the planet.
He's a planet. And it's also...
he's the Green Lantern that's a planet. It's like, imagine Ego, the living planet, as a Green Lantern.
Right. Okay. Now I was thinking, I was like, wasn't there a character that was like a planet and a battery? But whatever, I don't care. DC's stuff is kind of weird. It doesn't really matter. Right. So yeah, she's basically, chilling with a planet. And if folks may or may not know, Teen Lantern is a pretty recently new Lantern alongside Joe Moline, who is also a new Green Lantern. But both playing various parts in Future State at this point, because Joe is on the Justice League, who actually was and is still way out someplace else in her normal book at this point. But yeah, so there you go. Teen Lanterns with Mogo. I don't know if she's powered or not because I hadn't read the story or not, but who even knows. Also, Teen Lantern was a part of the most recent iteration of Young Justice, which I believe that's where she came out, started at. Next up.
Alrighty, next up, Jon Stewart is set to shine in Green Lantern 50th Anniversary Collection. He gets the solo spotlight in the hardcover Best of Collection. Scheduled to go on sale June 22nd, Green Lantern Jon Stewart, A Celebration of 50 Years, will include comics as well as original essays by co-creator Neil Adams, the character's voice actor for many cartoons, Phil Lamar, along with comics writers John Ridley and Jeff Johns. I'm sure Roddykat is sniffing at Jeff Johns' name.
No, it was the John Ridley actually, because
Oh, really?
Well, because 12 Years a Slave more so than what he's recently gotten into.
I was about to say, I'm like, Roddykat is still harping on how people get into the comics business. I was just looking for a price point in this. I don't seem to see a price point in this article.
Yeah, I don't think there is one yet. That's weird, actually, because it's coming out relatively soon. I think I might pick this up. Jon Stewart is a lot of people's first and only Lantern.
For a whole generation.
Exactly. So, and I probably remember reading a couple of things in the past, but I never really, I know him more for Justice League, obviously, and the animated versions of Jon Stewart. But yeah,
it's not very expensive. It's $40, $39.99. You can pre-order it now on Amazon.
And they've been doing those celebration of 50 years for various characters. So I guess, yeah, probably would have been the same price point for any of whatever those are. So that's cool. I'm definitely looking to possibly check this out. Actually, cool, I'm gonna get it. I probably will get it. Next up, though. Boink. Future State, Justice League number 2 signals a new expanded series that is coming. It looks more like Future State Justice League is in the DC's future and likely with an expanded team. The second issue of the 2-issue limited series seems to strongly suggest that the Justice League will be the second Future State property that will branch off into an upcoming new title along with the just announced Future State Gotham. Which I don't remember seeing the thing for that, but that's fine. The majority of the titles in the 2-month DC event that takes place in the various DC Universe future timelines are seeding storylines that will be picked up. That will pick up when the publisher's main contemporary line returns and refreshes in March. And beyond in the post-Death Metal new DC Universe, they're calling the Infinite Frontier. So let's see. The lineup includes Future State prequel series like next. Well, with some of this stuff we've talked about already, so I don't necessarily need to get into that. But and there's also spoilers for Future State Justice League number 2, which wait, did that come out last week or this week? Regardless, it doesn't matter. So there you go.
Last week.
Yeah, because I don't remember. I feel like I remember seeing it, but I don't remember reading it.
Same. No, I skimmed it. I think it was out last week.
Okay. Yeah, so I definitely didn't get a chance to read it then, so I'm probably going to try to catch up on some of that stuff at the very least. So yeah, that's the thing that's going to happen. So I notice there are a few of these books that are getting post-Future State books, so sure. Next up.
Alrighty, next up, as if it wasn't going to be a little bit too on the nose. Batgirl.
This was not intentional. That the fact that you know who got this story, just to know that that's just how it played out.
Batgirl, Robin, and a new Catgirl lead DC's Asian superhero special. And don't let me get started on this. Well, you know I'm going to get started on it now because I got the story.
I know.
Because I saw this image, and I'm going to get into my feelings on this after I get into the story. DC is set to celebrate May's Asian Pacific American Heritage Month by putting out a special that includes creators like Jim Lee, Mariko Tamaki, Francis Manapul, and more. DC Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration, is a 96-page one-shot anthology starring and created by Asian and Asian Americans. Now this is some pardon my French here. This is some shit right here. The 96-page one-shot issue will commemorate DC's rich roster and Asian American characters. That's some shit right there. Presenting new tales by some of the most lauded storytellers in comics, reads the publisher's description of DC Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration.
I mean,
Ram V, the current Catwoman series writer, will at last unveil the long-seated mysteries behind Shoes in an action-packed tale that follows the character as she becomes Catwoman's protege, revealing her real name, secret origin, and who her mother is. Okay. All right. Eisner Award-winning author Mariko Tamaki is going to continue her work on the Batman mythos and present an original Cassandra Cain story. Okay. Geez, DC's iconic? That's some shit.
I mean,
Asian
it's a stretch. It's the only one also, but, you know.
Joining these stories, Min Le, the acclaimed writer behind the smash hit middle-grade graphic novel Green Lantern Legacy, will team with artist Trung Le Nguyen for an all-new story featuring Vietnamese-American Thai Pham, DC's newest Green Lantern, co-created by Le and Green Lantern Legacy artist Andy Tong. Okay. So,
did you read that, by the way?
What's that?
Did you read that? The Green Lantern Legacy?
I bought a copy, yeah.
Okay.
Additional characters planned for inclusion are Damian Wayne, the Al Ghul clan, Katana, Lady Shiva, the Atom, Dana Tan, Red Arrow, Lady Shiva again, there's some shit, and the new Superman. So, ladies and gentlemen, Roddykat has this image, I presume, drawn by Jim Lee and colored by Alex Sinclair up on your screens right now.
Mm-hmm.
Please let us look at the character roster herein and compare this to what we last saw in the pages of Totally Awesome Hulk. And
Oh, okay.
right, and just compare the character roster here and some of the exposure that these Asian heroes in DC have gotten in the past several years, as opposed to the obvious push that Marvel has made, thanks to the video game markets that they're in introducing new Asian characters into the fold and giving them some spotlight and some miniseries and solo series.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's compare the two, shall we? Who in the hell
I'm
is that
loving
in the
this.
back? Is that the Asian guy from Gen 13 sipping on the soda? I think so. Behind
yeah, I
Lady
don't.
Shiva?
Oh, yeah, I don't know who that is.
I think that's him.
But I do remember seeing an article saying that there's some Gen 13 characters coming over. So that's
Right.
that's
But seriously, who on earth knows who any of these other characters are, other than maybe Cassandra Cain and Katana if you watch Suicide Squad?
I mean, to be fair, Ryan Choi. People do know Ryan Choi, the Atom. Some people
If
do
they
know.
recognize his uniform.
Well, yeah, and Red Arrow is, if you've been reading Teen Titans of late, then yeah, not
Late maybe.
yeah. So, because even when I started reading Teen Titans, and she came up like, where did she come from? Apparently, that's like Oliver's daughter with somebody, and yeah, that's another queen. So I know who that person is, but yeah, I'm kind of with you on that part. And outside of that, that new Teen Lantern, we already shared where that comes from. Like,
Right.
yeah, the most definitely, like you said, the most notable one in here is Cassandra Cain, and I don't know too many people who've read that.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Katana, obviously, yes, and like at some respects, Ryan Choi. But yeah, I don't know who that other person is on the left, on top left, next to Green Lantern, and well, if you
Omak,
is that Omak?
or some version of it.
Okay,
It's certainly not Gladiator from
Yeah, I know, right?
from the Shi'ar.
Yeah, that's the wrong universe.
Right, but at the end of the day, I guess what really bothered me about the story, because I did happen to catch this story before the show, while, in the lead up to the show. What really bothered me about this is that they're talking about, making a push to honor the Asian characters, and the creators in the DC universe by putting out the special, which is great. They've got a great roster of creators. Don't get me wrong. The roster of creators is second to none. That's a great roster of creators. They're comic book creators at the top of their game right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these characters, on the other hand, it's Korath gone crazy.
Yeah,
And I know you could say the same thing about some of the characters that are in that Protectors, group, but they've gotten a lot more shine over the last 2-3 years.
Well, yeah, because the
any
Agents of
characters.
Atlas, though. But yeah, so DC's not trying to. DC's staying losing.
So that's all I mean to say.
Yeah.
Is that we've seen? I forgot. I was blanking on that. The Agents of Atlas miniseries that we've seen them all team up in, and a crossover with War of the Realms and whatchamacallit?
King in Black.
Well,
I guess.
they crossed into.
They ended on King in Black. Yeah.
Yes, they ended on King in Black. That's right.
So yeah.
They crossed into the Namor part of King in Black. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess some people will be like, well, we know new Superman, but I don't want that many people was checking for him.
Right. So, like I said, I was mildly offended by this, to be honest.
Hadn't noticed.
It's not like they've been trying, like their attempts have been at best half-hearted.
Right. In fact, I want to say, especially, well, I mean, we've seen Katana in Future State most recently, and she's been a part of the Outsiders also just as recently. So she, out of mostly anybody, as far as I know, and Red Arrow, have been relatively prominent in the last, say, I would give it nicely a year or two. Yeah, I don't know, because I think Cassandra Cain has shown up like here and there. She might have been in Batgirl, actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, outside of that, yeah, all these other people are like, ooh.
I mean, what I was gonna say is obviously they don't have a Shang-Chi, right?
Well, yeah,
They
you're right.
don't
They don't, because I was about to say Richard Dragon wasn't Richard Dragon? Didn't they like change Richard Dragon at some point? Yeah,
Ooh.
and I think he's white. So I don't know, or
I
at
think
some
so,
point he was
too.
white. So
I think so too. But at the end of the day, you know, they don't have a Shang-Chi. They they obviously don't have like that long-standing Asian character, even though Shang-Chi is you know, has had a problematic history, and obviously,
mm-hmm.
you know, over time has had his story rehabilitated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but come on now, you know, you talk about you have this big roster, and you barely have characters that have gotten any sort of push in the last year or two. Forget 3 or 4 years or 5 years.
Right. In
You know,
fact,
they put Shang on the Avengers back in 2013.
mm-hmm. And yeah, in fact, like I said, the one that was mentioned in the article, which was the Legacy one, was brand new as of last year.
Right.
And
So,
I
like
think
said,
what the new Superman's been around for a couple of years, I know, but I can't remember when that one. It's been what, 2015?
a couple of years. When was the last time you saw him? A Crisis or two?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, when he had his own book, I think.
Oh,
But yeah, I don't. It's weird. It's crazy.
I mean, I'm glad that they want to put out something that celebrates it, but don't, you know, like I said, don't be prone to hyperbole and be like, hey,
Right.
look at our rich roster of Asian and Asian American characters. Come
Right.
on.
Seems almost patronizing.
Come on.
And at first, the funny thing about it was like,
Hold on. I got something for this.
okay.
Your mother brought you up wrong, that's what it is.
I didn't know how or when that one actually was going to come into play. But, you know. Oh god. Oh, I forgot to check the recording, but anyway, we'll be all right. So yeah, that's a thing. But hey, May 11th, folks, that's when that's going to come out.
Goodness gracious.
At fine stores and digital comic retailers near you. But like you said, the list of creators is smashing. You know, this is some good stuff.
Absolutely.
Some of the characters,
Right,
yeah, sure.
Right, and you know, I give them props for doing it because I don't see anything like that in the Marvel solicits.
Right.
So, you know, that's obviously it points to them, but come on, don't, you know, with the hyperbole, please.
I feel like that's probably something Marvel's going to do because especially since they had that Marvel Voices thing, and they've already done like Native Americans, and they've kind of mixed some stuff in with some of the legacy stuff, and I don't think they did a specifically black one, but you know.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned that. It absolutely is funny that you mentioned that. Well, one, there's also Silk.
Yeah, there you go.
Who has an ongoing in May. It's funny that you mentioned that before we move on quickly. I've been ranting for a while now, and it's getting late, and I'm getting tired.
Yes.
What I was going to mention is that Marvel Voices project or directive or initiative that they have. They put out, I don't know what I did with it. You know, they have they do promo posters, right?
Yes.
And the most recent Marvel Voices promo poster, I think this is it. It's pretty cool. I think this is it. Oh yeah, it is. Marvel Voices Legacy. Underappreciated Asian American character is front and center in this poster. I'm going to turn off my virtual background and apologies, folks.
That's fine. As a matter of fact, I'm going to turn me off and then do that. There we go. So you can see the poster in full.
Who is that front and center?
Jubilee.
Is that one Jubilation Lee?
That is.
Jubilation Lee, who's already been in an animated X-Men series and in the X-Men movies.
Well,
we all neglect her. We all forget her.
They did in that movie. They sure did forget her because she had like a 5-second part. But anyway, That's beside the point.
But at the end of the day, I got a kick out of seeing her being front and center in this Voices Legacy poster with Kamala and Storm and Miles and Blade. I think that's America Chavez on the top. So that's pretty cool.
Yes. And also she's in Excalibur at this current time.
Exactly. So I'm glad that I'm glad that I remembered that Marvel Voices thing. You know that they do have this initiative.
Right.
So I'm glad that you brought it up.
Not a problem.
Moving on.
Yes. Let's see. So yeah, next up, and you got the good one to end this off on, but Stargirl goes on spring break in a one-shot by Jeff Johns. DC Comics will release Stargirl Spring Break Special #1 on May 4th, and I kind of wish I had the audio cue that I probably would have had for that. But the Stargirl Spring Break Special #1 comic follows along in the series of novelty holiday one-shots DC began releasing again, which started last December with DC's Very Merry Multiverse, and followed up by DC's Love is a Battlefield, neither of which we read, which was released on February 9th. Let's see. This time, the quote-unquote holiday season focuses spring break, and the Stargirl comic penned by Jeff Johns takes center stage. Although not an 80-page giant like the previous holiday specials, it has a sizable adventure story featuring Stargirl, accompanied by Stripe and his former team, the Seven Soldiers of Victory. It's a 49-page comic illustrated by Todd Knock. So, hey, you know the art's going to be good. Which features a main cover by Todd Knock, which retails for $5.99, and a cardstock variant by Mike McCone, which retails for $6.99. Next, last but not least.
All right, last but not least. All right, the movie worlds of Superman 78 and Batman 89, referring to the movies, are heading to comics in 2 all-new DC Digital First series. The gothic mentality of Tim Burton's Batman lurks around every corner in Batman 89 by screenwriter Sam Hamm and artist Joe Quinones. You'll Believe a Man Can Fly in Superman 78 by writer Rob Venditti and artist Wilfredo Torres. Beginning in July 2021, decades after both Richard Donner's Superman the movie and Tim Burton's Batman introduced generations of fans to silver screen versions of DC's main, like 2 headline characters. DC is returning to these beloved properties to tell new stories set within these worlds with the publication of a series of Superman 78 and Batman 89 comic books. They're going to be digital first. Let's see. Stay tuned for price point, but digital comics tend to be priced the same as physical.
Right. And more likely they'll probably, which I don't, they'll probably make physical copies at some point. That's why they say
the article does say that. The 12 chapters of each new series will also publish as 6 printed comics between August and October, and as hardcover collections in October and November. October for Batman 89 and November for Superman 78. Okay.
Yeah. So this has led folks to, now obviously this is not the first time DC has done this, because they had their Batman 66 version and also a Wonder Woman 72, something like that series, and also even a crossover between the two, now that I think about it. So it's not unheard of for them to, mine their other media sources for appropriate period books. But this has also had people, online talking about, what should they do next, or what should somebody do next? And then Marvel's kind of done this also to a point with X-Men 92. What I think of, there might have been another one, I can't recall it. I'm not even counting like 1602 and stuff like that, because that's totally different. So yeah, I'm kind of. We'll check this out. We'll more likely if we look into this, we'll probably talk about it at some point between the digital version or the physical, whichever happens, if they're appealing enough to us. But this is kind of cool. I don't know. I thought. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that people want because they've always been curious about the further adventures, especially in that Batman verse.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing some of those different how some of those different characters are portrayed.
Mm-hmm. Some would say that would be Batman animated series, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, speaking of that, I will go ahead and take this time to say before we end off on the show that, and you probably already know this because we've said it before, Batman animated series. I believe most of the, if not all of the other Batman series, are on HBO Max at this point. I know, between January and now, a lot of that stuff's been getting on there, but also most recently, Static Shock, on another note, is now on there. I think they just recently put like The Batman and other shows, which I thought it was already on there, on the service. So Static Shock is on there. That is because I meant to mention that earlier, is now on there in its entirety. So you can go check that out. As far as I know, it's in entirety.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Batman animated series, which is pretty much the GOAT of of that era's animation, and probably led to the DC animated universe at large.
Yep.
That may not be hyperbole.
Gotcha.
Actually, I don't think it is, because that doesn't got it. So I was watching the Heart of Batman Batman animated series thing on YouTube, and I think they specifically said as much. Yeah, so there we go, folks. We are at the end of the show, but before we end this off, we have another ad read.
And we have one more rant. Shang-Chi #1 is launching in May.
Okay. Wait, I thought we knew that. I thought we said that.
But I just wanted to add that.
Oh, you to the other
to
cap off that other rant.
Yes, is launching in May.
So he gets on me about doing these rants like this, and here he goes. So that's fine. That's fine. You know what? You were due that.
Once in a while,
You were due that one.
entitled to rant,
Yes, you were completely due that one. So.
Our last ad read of the night is for Funko Fun at First Sight. Your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise, custom DIY pop figures, and books and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. Place your first order with 10% off and help keep our show free for you. Go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10, SHOP 10, for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today.
And as we end on another fine episode of this here show, I'd like to thank each and every one of you fine folks for coming out. This one's, well, they've all been lengthy. I don't even know why I'm even saying anything. But so to belabor this any further, WandaVision's coming out in a couple hours. Go check that out. Don't spoil it, folks. Don't be that person, please.
Absolutely.
We will be back next week, Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. Yes, I'm doing this first. Don't ask me why. But on the YouTube channel of the Click Nation, that's the Click Nation. That's the Click Nation. That's the KLIQNATION. And also twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, all one word.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe.
Indeed. And you can check out us at our various social media places. I have been, probably should have done what I was about to do, but I didn't. Roddykat, you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Needs on Twitter, and CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com. There's umbrella sites therein, and probably still that fine replacement bite under comic reviews. No vowels.
No vowels.
Yep. Tim DOGG9X on Twitter, the Osiris that is ish. You can find him at that, not Tim DOGG98, if that's not clear. You can also find him at CBCron on Twitter. You can also find him at The Click Nation on Twitter. You can also find him at, did I say CBCron? If I didn't, CBCron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Shout him out there. Shout us out there. We will see stuff. I'm sure he will point stuff to us if not. Or, you can go to our regular stuff if you want to. But also you can find Tim, because that's why I wanted to separate that from this. Comic book resource where you can find Tim writing his face off. And he has provided, well, he didn't provide us. We grabbed them from those ourselves, but graced us with some of the articles you have heard of tonight. And you should definitely go over there and check out his works and other fine works there and other places. But definitely his. And you can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast at your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave us 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. Again, next week, 9:30 p.m., all that I've said earlier, we will be back with a brand new episode. And yes, I have not forgotten, we will absolutely do the year-end show from last year I'm hoping before the end of this month, which is short as hell.
That's so.
I feel like there's something else I was wanted to bring up, but I don't know what it is. So it's just, well, if you had a happy Valentine's, great, but love is every day, so don't just let it be one time a year. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!